Time for Type 40 Live, the live stream Doctor Who magazine show on Rumble, X, YouTube, and on Facebook. That's where you'll find us all too regularly, covering, whether they like it or not, all things Doctor Who, from right the way back then to the right here and the right now, all in front of a live chat full of fellow friends, fans, and companions just like you. And watch out, if you've got a license for that view screen, big screen thrills on the Big Who this week as we mark yet another Doctor Who anniversary for our main presentation, celebrating and reviewing the first Dalek movie. That's back out in 4K. Our panel are changed, charged, and ready. We'll feel their fire and bring plenty of our own back too on Type 40 Live. Yes. Now. Ooh. Things look a little different, don't they? Someone's done the weeding. Same but different. How strange. Let's go inside. Oh. No, that's not right. That's not right at all. We'll sort it out as we get into the show between us, I'm sure. I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's king of the geeks, and we'll find out who you are in a moment or two. I don't doubt we know what you're here for. More of the same, and lots more from throughout the past, the present, and the future of Doctor Who. This time it's another one of our big event shows. We've got a panel waiting, ready to bring on. They're raring to go to hurtle back through time and space for an encounter with them. The dreaded Pepper Potts, of course, this time in assorted colours too, long before the Teletubby Daleks as well. So yes, make sure you have your memory pre-jogged for all of that that's coming up later on, and we'll be taking your comments and your memories too. Of course we will. And I can't say there's as much room here as there usually is. I mean, it's health and safety nightmare. Have you got the cable ties at all, Sarah? Have you got any of those?
I wasn't prepared. I didn't think it was going to be me.
You get it. Oh, for the cables or for coming on? Hello.
Hello, everybody. Hello, Dan. Oh, yeah, I can't. Yeah, this just is too much for me. Far too messy. And I do miss the central colour.
Say no more. So this make you want to get your house coat on and sort it all out, does it? Grab the Mr. Sheen, tidy things up, get them a bit more shipshape.
I just need to tidy. I just do, yeah. But yeah, what a shock though when you open those doors and saw that. But I do like it that every time you entered this TARDIS and the lights automatically came on. That was a nice little touch. So you'd go out and they'd go off again, go back in, they come back on. That always used to make me laugh.
Oh. Yeah, I remember now. It's all coming flooding back to me bit by bit by bit. Is it as much of a shock as coming back on the show again, though, for another time? It's great to see you. And how's your week been? Good?
It's been better than last week. Yes, no, it's been a nice, relaxed week. It's been very good. This is the only Doctor Who I've been watching, though, really. I've been binge watching Downton Abbey in preparation for the new film that's out.
Oh, they're completing the trilogy, aren't they? They're completing
the trilogy, yeah. And I'm a bit rusty on some of it, so I thought I'd go back, I'll start from scratch, and I'm going to watch them all. And flipping heck, it's like Game of Thrones. I got the intrigue and the deaths, and like I'd forgotten.
Well, I would imagine this being the third film, the Emperor has to come back at some point, because that always happens in the third part of every movie series, doesn't it?
Exactly. Well, I shall let you know. But obviously there's a couple of Doctor Who references. Yeah, one of the main cast is Penelope Wilton. So that's lovely to see. And Ian Glenn's popped up as well, who was Father Octavian. So it's fun. It's fun doing what we did with the Thursday Murder Club and just spot everybody.
Have we got you into the habit of doing that with literally everything you watch now?
Everything, yeah. You can't help it if you're a Doctor Who fan. I'm raring to go on this. Really looking forward to this.
You're wondering where you've seen this face and that face before. It's a lot easier when you come in here. I can tell you exactly where you saw Gary Akers before, because it was right here last week, and he looks like this.
That's right. I've been waiting for this for weeks So I know that we're going to have a really fun show. But I got to follow up what Sarah was just saying. If I were to make a list of like the top 10 things I'll probably never do, binging Downton Abbey would probably be at the top of the list. But I am glad that Sarah's enjoying it.
Great show, to be fair.
Gary, you don't know what you're missing, love. You
I
don't.
know exactly what I'm missing.
It's good to have you back, Gary. Good to have you back. I tell you what, I'm missing. I'm definitely missing a bit of Charlotte Shields.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Okay.
Hello, everybody in the chat.
Are you going to
Welcome.
binge Downton Abbey, Charlotte?
No, I tried it because I do like my period stuff, and I just couldn't get on with it. Like, I did try it.
Well, you get a sticker for effort. Unlike Gary. Gary doesn't get
I get a golden sticker.
You can have a gold star. Well, not
I'll tell you what,
excellent. Well, yeah, you can have an excellent drill.
I'd rather have that than having a fire drill when we didn't need to in the pouring rain today. So this is going to be more fun.
So when you got back into the building, it was a bit like this, was it? It was one of those moments.
Yeah. The kids were sort of looking like that because whatever age group they are, they just always come in like they've had the shock of their life. And you have to be like, no, it's fine. Like, the building's fine. Like, we're fine.
To
but
be
they're
fair,
all like,
I'm the same. Great big kid, me. A bit like Luke Walters. He's an overgrown kid as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But I will take great pleasure in saying I will and will never, ever, ever watch Downton Abbey. Never.
You're not winning, Sarah, at the moment.
No.
I feel ganged up on.
No.
Not even out of curiosity as a filmmaker, producer, director type yourself, just to think.
No. Hi, everyone in the chat. I am never, ever watching that. It's not my jam.
See,
Not
Sarah,
Sarah,
don't feel...
Sarah,
don't feel ganged up on. Just shake your head and just go, oh, those unenlightened
Never
people.
never say never, mate. Once you move in with a bird, that's it. You find yourself agreeing to all sorts of shit.
Hey. I own that remote. The remote
Having
is
animals and all sorts of stuff goes on. You open the fridge and there's all this gunk. Oh, no. Anyway, hello, good to have you back, mate.
That TV controller is mine. Unless she's watching this, then it is definitely hers. But yeah, no, never watching it. But no, hello. Yeah, thanks for having us back. I'm very excited. I love Doctor Who and the Daleks. I was just watching it, and like Charlotte, I got caught in the thunder and lightning we had in Manchester, and I got caught in it right in the middle on my lunch. So yeah, that was a very fun, enlightening day for myself. Enlightening, and there was lightning. See what I did there?
Yeah, very good. Very
and
clever.
lightning. It's like the kind of stage show you get when you go to a concert, isn't it? Which is the perfect lead-in, I think, to him.
I still love that. It is just absolute genius. That I have my keyboard right down here.
Good to have you back after a few weeks away.
Thank you very much.
Sunning yourself. You look energized.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very, very good to be back. The reason I haven't been here is there's nothing interesting or intriguing whatsoever. I have been off on manoeuvres because I was in a murder mystery at the weekends. Yeah, I know, Luke. I was in a murder.
I love murder mysteries. They're so good.
I was in a murder mystery, and so we were rehearsing. Unfortunately, it was every Thursday for about a month and a half. We were rehearsing on a Thursday evening. It just had to be Thursdays, didn't it? And so I can now reveal that I played French chef Simon Le Bonbon, but then you probably already knew that. You'd probably worked that one out. And I can also reveal, yes, I was the murderer. It was me. It was me what did it. So that's why I've been away. Simple as that. But it's good to be back, and I put lots and lots of colours on because Doctor Who and the Daleks is all about colour, isn't it?
It is.
I have to ask, were you in full French chef regalia?
Oh, oui, monsieur, I was.
Wow.
I borrowed from a celebrity chef who lives down the road. I borrowed the white French white tunic of the chef. So yeah, Gary, yeah, I was in full chef's white. Yes, thank
Did you
you,
have a
Peter.
mustache? Did you have a little tash?
No, but I did have a string of onions round my neck. Of course, I did.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
In for a penny, in for a pound, mate. Yeah. Are you a fan of? Are you a fan of the movie TARDIS, the original movie TARDIS model here? I'm not quite sure what Ian makes of it, but got a bit of a closer look there. The rugs look somewhat threadbare, don't they? When you can see it in black and white.
I just remember being really, really disappointed by this when I first saw this on television. Gosh, many, many years ago. So it would have been about, I don't know, about 1977, 78, something like that. So I was about 10 at the time. And it was the first time, obviously, I'd seen either of the films. And I just remember being absolutely gutted when they walk in and this is the TARDIS console, because I still think, I'm sorry, I still think it's just an absolute disastrous design. I think it's just awful. I love the films, don't get me wrong, I'm not criticizing the films, but I do think what were they thinking? It's just not a good design, is it? Does anybody like it?
I have wondered where they were going with it, and if it was even designed, because it does seem all over. It turns out it was designed. I know it was designed. 'Cause I've got the sketch here. This is how. This was the original drawing, the concept.
Wow.
So you can kind of see what they were sort of going for. It's got that kind of Heath Robinson kind of look, a hangover maybe from the 50s. And I would say that even though the people who bought the rights to turn Doctor Who into a film had bought the scripts, the particular set of scripts, they negotiated the rights with the creators of the monsters as well, the dreaded Daleks, but everything else, they probably had to make it look as different as possible from the original incarnation. I mean, I do notice that sort of the red handlebar thing is much more prominent in this sketch, and the rocking chair being central. There is a sort of central control column of sorts as well, Sarah. That's interesting that survived.
Yeah, I wish that had been a bit more prominent as well. But again, I suppose they had to make it different from the TV show.
Yeah, and I think the TARDIS, obviously in the movies, it's from a very different place where the TARDIS comes from. It's not a magical space machine. It's not Time Lord technology. So it is sort of, what would a mad scientist, what would a very sort of science-minded person make? And I think that's what's so interesting about the movies, and we'll probably get into this more later. Having such a different perspective of things we know or we love, and we see somebody else have a go with that different perspective.
Every time I see some pictures of scientists working in laboratories in the 20th century, say from the earliest sort of innovations, really, I suppose, and the growth, the spread of electricity, powering everything, you always see scientists sort of reaching up to something. You don't often see them sort of looking and reaching down. And so the fact that all the controls are actually up higher where he would reach for them and move wires around in from one instrument to another, I think that's interesting. I think that's telling of a particular time sign.
Yeah, and I have to be honest, I'm handing it to Charlotte because, call me stupid, but I'd never actually clocked that it does make a lot of sense that the control room looks the way it does, because you're quite right. Doctor Who, and it is Doctor Who in the film, has literally built this from whatever scientific stuff and MacGuffin and things he has lying around in his laboratory, in the garden shed, in the garage, whatever it is. That's what. And so I've never clocked it, Charlotte, and so I'm actually getting a bit of a renewed sense of respect for this console room, because logically it makes absolute sense. The designer did a good job of designing something that looks like it's been put together by a mad Earth scientist.
Yeah,
so
I think it's the idea of a human mind versus
Yes.
Time Lord mind.
Yeah.
And how's that put on screen?
It's like,
and so in that
being
respect,
on-
Charlotte, I do think they actually fulfilled the brief. In all honesty, and I'm sort of I'm rethinking myself. I'm to an extent on this one.
plastic everywhere. It is, when we talk like this, it is like being on that show Through the Keyhole. Do you remember that? Who would live in a house like this? And it wouldn't be one of them. It'd be a guy a little bit like this. We'll be meeting him later on, I don't doubt. But yeah, a product of its time. I suppose that's the thing. That's the key. Britain in the mid-60s looked different, but the same. I remember Britain when it still kind of looked a little bit like this.
Yeah, me too.
In the 70s. And this sort of time, post-war Britain, holds so much romance for me. Increasingly now, I mean, when I was a kid, and when I say a kid, I mean up until the age of about 22, I always felt I was born after my time, if you follow me. I used to romanticize the 50s and the 60s to a huge degree. And then I really grew out of it. I'm finding myself sort of going back, reaching back to it again now, partly due to movies and TV shows, or just old photographs, or my own memories, things like that. But not only does Britain seem like a cozier, safer place, a more idiosyncratic place, but the cultural figures, I don't know, just seem a little more charming, a little warmer. And I just think there was a sense of humor about everything then that isn't now, a playfulness. Muhammad Ali and the Beatles were the huge cultural figures at the time. I suppose the modern equivalent would be somebody like Conor McGregor and whatever band, who's the band now, you know, Dua Lipa, we talked about the other day, people like that. But I don't think you'd catch Conor McGregor and Dua Lipa acting out something like this, Luke, would you? Maybe.
Well, Conor McGregor be doing some unscrupulous act probably somewhere, as you know, where he's like these days. Dua Lipa, yeah, probably. She can do whatever she wants in my eyes. She can never do no wrong. But yeah, no, it's when you see like TV shows as well, go back to like this time, as essentially when you look at like Life on Mars as well. With John Sim, and it goes back to the 70s, and then you got Ashes to Ashes on the 80s as well. And it seems like a completely different world to the day and age that we live in now. And it's very romanticized. And yeah, it's cool to look back, man. It's cool to look back, and hopefully we'll get there one day. But you never know. You never know.
You never know. Of course, the Daleks were just as big as, if not quite the Beatles, probably as big as Muhammad Ali in Britain. They hit certainly as hard, didn't they? And they were everywhere for a time. That iconic design had become, I think, legendary in a really short period of time. I mean, they thrashed it out. They thrashed it out for really quite a short period, didn't they? Sort of lightning happened really, really fast. It was like a storm of creativity, I think, Simon, when it came to Daleks on the television.
Absolutely, it was. And what's interesting is you just sort of said about the Beatles, and maybe were the Daleks as popular as the Beatles at this point? Well, actually, one could argue that in a way they were more popular than the Beatles, because in 1965, when obviously Doctor and the Daleks was released, that was the same year that The Chase was on television, the William Hart story, The Chase on television, and as you may or may not know, of course, the Beatles appear in The Chase. And in fact, at the exact same time that episode 1 of The Chase was screening on BBC One, the Beatles were actually on ITV, on the other side, as we used to call it, at the exact same time, in a TV special. And the first episode of The Chase got more viewers than the Beatles in their own special on ITV. So actually, at this precise moment in time, one could argue that actually the Daleks were more popular than the Beatles at this precise second in sort of Doctor Who history. They were enormous at this point.
So the Fab, never mind the Fab Four, the Fab Three, the Dalek, Ray Cusick, the designer, and Terry Nation, the creator and writer, were dominant. After all, I had no idea.
Did you write that was some of the props in The Chase actually used in this movie? And
correct. But except the other way around. It's the other way around, Sarah.
Okay.
They borrowed the props from the film to put in The Chase. That's what happened. So so it's the props in the background in the shots of the chase. Basically, the ones where they've removed the fender from the bottom. There's no fender on the bottom, so you can identify them quite easily. And they just chuck them because they were too tall. So they took the fenders off and they just chucked them in the backs of shots. And so those are the ones that you will see in the chase. So they borrowed them from the movie.
If that's the kind of facts he's giving away in the introduction, just imagine what the diary is going to be like. Everybody. Doctor Who itself was still hugely popular. This week, 60 years ago, Galaxy 4 was about to kick off season 4 of Doctor Who proper over on the telly. The Doctor, Vicky, Stephen, and the Chumbleys there. Not exactly a story which is talked about very often. And obviously season 4 represented, again, another period of great change for Doctor Who, but it was still riding a crest of that wave, the wave that brought about the movie Doctor Who and the Daleks, which is 60 years old this summer. So it was making its way, sweeping the nation about now, and that's our excuse for yet another huge celebration party, big Who event show here with us here in the console room and everybody there in the live chat on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. Be no doubt there's a lot to talk about, considering that what it amounts to less than 90 minutes of entertainment. I mean, where can you get 90 minutes worth of solid entertainment like that anywhere now, let alone back on telly? I think that's a very rare thing. You could head over to the BBC's YouTube channel, maybe. Like we had this. This was last Saturday, Saturday the 6th of September, where the BBC were offering a Doctor Who Night 2025 edition. So this was the highlights. So they said on their social media, these are the highlights of the latest season, the 2025 season 2 of Doctor Who, that they were streaming from 7 p.m. UK time. Get Belinda home again there on the Doctor Who YouTube channel. And I remember scratching my head thinking, highlights? Yeah, I thought, well, that's going to be a bloody short show, Gary. In the end, they did apparently get 90 minutes worth together for that. But I think I'd still rather go with Doctor Who and the Daleks myself, you know?
Yeah, likewise. That probably doesn't surprise you.
Of course, you're guaranteed entertainment, feature-length, long-form entertainment too, if you head over to our home feed at type40.podbean.com. You can get all the podcasts there, news, reviews, interviews, previews, geek outs, and deep dives with all our regulars and lots of awesome guests right there. And we're across all major podcatchers with that as well. But this is Type 40 Live on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook, here with a packed panel raring to go. Lots of great clips, more fantastic picks, and some superb facts that we're going to drag out of the history books as ever. You bring your memories, we have a laugh or two. That tends to be how it works, and it's partly to mark the occasion of the film Doctor Who and the Daleks yet again being released on physical media. So this is the latest edition here from Severin. Now Severin are a kind of boutique Blu-ray and 4K label, aren't they, Gary? They sort of specialize in kind of culty films, don't they? Films with a smaller following and giving them that sort of prestige treatment for modern media, for the presentation of advances in home cinema technology.
Yeah, I guess this is a way that if you live in Region 1, the US and Canada, that's a great way to get these movies. I know I have the 4K from the UK release, but a movie like this deserves to be available to everybody all over the world, not just all of you there in the UK. Some of us need to be able to get our hands on it
years ago. I wouldn't buy this again, but I have dipped on this. So I've imported the Severin, this brand new edition here, and I'll let you know what I think of that later on. But it comes out every 3 or 4 years. It comes around again, gets pimped out or up and wheeled out, usually with some new features and bits and bobs that they've managed to assemble and some expert opinions there as well to bolster each release, which can get very frustrating if you've already promised that you've bought it for the very last time, Simon. But then again, that's what we're like as Doctor Who fans, isn't it?
That is what we like, and I can see there's a comment from Duncan the Funky Evans saying about the US edition that's just come out. Yeah, that's the one you're talking about, isn't it, Dan? The Severin one is the, just to clarify for anybody that is getting confused, because there have been a lot of releases of this recently. Yes, the Severin edition is the US release that is just recently come out, very recent. I think it's this year, isn't it, Dan? And it has indeed got nothing desperately exciting. There's a few extras on there that are not on the UK release. There's an extra commentary track, which means there's 2 commentary tracks as opposed to 1, and there's a couple of very sort of shortish interviews with various people. So there's nothing desperately exciting. So if you've got the UK edition already, there's no desperate need, I would wager, to splash out again on the Severin discs. That they're not going to set your world on fire, to be honest. As long as you've got a 4K version, you're going to be.
The main reason I wanted this is the packaging. It's far slimmer.
I agree.
Than that enormous box set, and of course being 4K too. It's there's no region lock on it, so it will play on whatever player that you've got. So that's the good news.
That is an absolutely cracking poster.
Yeah,
it is, isn't it, Sarah? The poster itself was originally from 1982. It was that was from the EMI Thorn VHS edition of Doctor Who and the Daleks back in 1982 by the same artist, Tom Chantrell, who did the original Star Wars poster. He's far more well known for being that original Star Wars
you
poster.
can tell that, now you mentioned
it's the same artist. So there you go.
Well, a year from now, Severin can release a super deluxe edition, which includes this stream.
Oh no!
As an extra. That would be,
Gary, I like the way you're thinking.
And we'll be checking in with the live chat for some of your memories about how many times you may have bought this on whatever format when you first saw it, and anything else that we may glean, any knowledge from those times. So yes, let fly with all of that, and we'll bring the facts and the banter as ever as we get stuck in to Doctor Who and the Daleks. Okay, so what next? Who next? I think that as ever we close this out with a quote. We've got a great quote here from one guy in particular. Here he is. Now, Peter Cushing, an absolute legend of cinema, didn't speak very often about Doctor Who. But to be fair, I don't think people asked him about Doctor Who that often either. A career as long as stellar as his, you could probably see why. And of course, Cushing died 31 years ago now, before the media age that we currently live in and the fascination with pop culture. So what we do have aren't the kindest of comments, shall we say, but at least they're genuine. At least what has survived when it comes to his connection with Doctor Who is authentically very, very Cushing. We're going to be getting stuck into the film in a moment or two, but before we do, as befits any trip to the cinema, I think you could be needing to preload with some refreshments. Is it ice cream time yet? It is time for the Type 40 Live Doctor Who and the Daleks ad break, round 1.
Now is the time for ice cream. Ice cream time! It's ice cream time with Lion's Mane. Ice cream time with Lion's Mane. When Master Maze meets Blondie Butter, wham! It's Butterkissed. Butterkissed. On sale now.
Have a hot dog, a piping hot Frankfurter tucked in a fresh white roll. Mmm, they're great. Have a hot dog now or after the show.
Kiora makes orange flamenco, lemon and lime cascade. Orange, lemon and lime from Kiora. for a cool 1 of 6.
Pepsi Cola is now on sale in the foyer.
Grill ready.
On grill.
Sprouts to simmer.
Simmer sprouts.
Chips ready.
In chips. All systems go, Mom?
All systems go. Wash hands for dinner.
You give the orders, today's high-speed gas cooker does the rest. So clean-looking, so modern and efficient. Well worth a special trip to your nearest gas showroom.
You enjoyed the movies, like to know what the stars do on and off the set. It's good to know what's new. Then read all about it in the ABC Film Review. Collect those colored pin-ups of the guys and gals who send you. Hollywood gossip gets here right on cue. So read all about it in the ABC Film Review. The latest bits they write about, collectors' corner they sat about. So many things to find out about. It's over to you in Film Review. Read all about the big time, what the big time stars all do. Every month just buy that ABC Film Review. Every month just buy Film Review.
Back with your Type 40 Live on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook. Are you all stocked up now and ready to get tucked in with all of that and our main presentation on this edition of the show, going all the way back to 1965 for an encounter with the dreaded Daleks? They don't look quite so scary when they're trying to get on the number 9, do they? But yes, who wouldn't? Back here with the panel, here in the TARDIS cloister room, a round table of Type 40's best equipped of time agents. Who've got? Yes, I'm Dan Hadley, Birmingham's King of the Geeks. This is Starry-Eyed Girl, Sarah Graham. This is Simon Horton, back with us at long last. Rock and roll star Simon Horton. We've got Luke Walters here too. There he is, giving his. That was the wrestling sort of coming into the ring moment, wasn't it? That kind of
back in the day. One day I'll just rock up on this pod. One day I'll come on this pod in like my full wrestling gear. I'll just bring
missus.
Regalia to a fanfare.
Yeah, why not?
Ultimate Warrior. We've got Gary Akers there as well with his baseball cap of the show. It looks like a Stargate one this time, mate. Is it?
It is, because I thought, well, the way that they describe TARDIS, moving in the movie almost sounds like going through a Stargate where you're broken down into your particles and sent somewhere else and then reintegrated.
Yeah, it does. Good shout, Gary.
I also want to know what happened to Blondie Butter now.
Blondie Butter. That sounds like, I think she works at a Spearmint Rhino on the main Hagley Road. I think we've had professional engagements, I believe. Yes, good stuff. And I see exactly what you mean. Of course I do. And we've got Charlotte Shields here as well, making up our panel. Follow that one, Charlotte.
You always do this to me. One of you.
Oh, God. Yeah, we've got people in the live chat here on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. I think we should just go and check in and see what they've got to say, whether they've limbered up or not. Simon Ashley's in. Hi, Simon. Good to have you back with us. Classic Doctor Who with Peter Cushing. Absolutely. We have Domgo here in the live chat, who seems to have enjoyed the first Type 40 Live Doctor Who ad break. Darren's in as well. Chips in the pan. He said chips in the pan. It's a bit late to be eating chips, isn't it? Chips closed.
Is it ever too late to eat chips? Not proper chips like that.
Ian Scales is in, and he remembers those horrible drinks with the straws that go through the lid.
They were awful. Just sugar water in a plastic tub, and they tasted really plastic as well. They clearly been in there so long they just tasted of the plastic. Ugh.
Any Pearl and Dean, says Peter Harrington.
That was the one thing that was missing, Dan.
It was,
just needed the Pearl and Dean bumpers.
Well, it's the one thing. It's the one thing that's still under copyright.
Really? Quite right too.
Philip Roy reminds us that Butterkiss, rah rah rah, each and every time. Matthew Pounder is clearly a fan of Blondie Butter as well. According to Domgo, a Lion's Maid was the upper class lolly, whereas he was a Walls kid.
I don't remember that. I mean, I remember Walls and I remember Lion's Maid. I don't remember Lion's Maid as being upper class.
No.
I think it was Walls that made the Dalek Death Ray, wasn't it? They were definitely the Dalek Death Rays. Walls.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish they'd bring these back. It's not really unfair for me.
I've said about this before,
Sarah,
Sarah,
but
but seriously, the Dalek Death Ray lolly was just awesome. It was chocolate and mint. It was to die for. Honestly, they were brilliant.
Lord Thoth's in the live chat. So is David Jenkins too. Lots
Hello, David.
of familiar faces here and superb icons, including Woodhouse 122s, chomping at the bit to find out more about that brand new release of Doctor Who and the Daleks. Tom from T Dwarf Productions is also interrupting his valuable time model making, of course. And we've got lots of comments about various other things, which we're not going to talk about on this edition of the show, but you knock yourselves out. You knock yourselves out by all means. Okay, so this has been cooking for a little while. We wanted to talk about this literally all of the summer, because obviously events like this in Doctor Who history, we don't all discover them at the same time, partly because Doctor Who's got such a sprawling history now. But when we do, they have a very precise, very particular, subjective effect on us all. And I think that some of those things are the best things to share, the most interesting things to share. For example, you'll take there on the TARDIS or TARDIS in this movie, Gary being more like a Stargate, the way it moves through. It's little things, the little things that we notice. Of course, there's that. There's the broader cultural content as well. I love a movie poster and the promise in huge letters that they were now on the big screen, Technicolor Technoscope on the classic quad poster for Doctor Who and the Daleks. Just the sight of this is enough with its great big golden letters. They leave you in no doubt that it is the Daleks, the stars of this film. But obviously it's so colourful. And all the markers are there of the decade that would famously swing. We still use that expression now, don't we? The swinging 60s. Britain was kind of at the dead centre of a cultural fever that gradually worked its way outward, I suppose. Dalek mania itself, of course. I mean, we talk about that quite a lot in Doctor Who circles. I've never been quite sure whether we overstate that or not. I think it's probably best that I don't know. But the pinnacle of all of that, of the Dalek soap and socks and various different toys, was probably the making of this glorious feature film of Doctor Who and the Daleks. Milton Subotsky and Max J. Rosenberg, they were an established team of producers. They bought the rights to take Doctor Who to the big screen at Amicus Studios. I think this could have been in the hope of emulating some of the success their rival studio Hammer had with the Quatermass, the various Quatermass movies that they'd made based on BBC serials too, even if it was for a slightly different demographic. I mean, they decided they were going to do a straight adaptation of Terry Nation's first 7-part serial that had introduced the Daleks to the viewing public. It was only about a little over a year later before all the negotiations for all of this started too. So they weren't wasting any time whatsoever. But the allure, I suppose, the USP, was seeing them not just bigger, but brighter than ever in multi-full colours. And I can't imagine, could any kid resist that in 1965? I suspect plenty of adults were chomping at the bit to see Doctor Who and the Daleks in the cinemas that summer. How could we not celebrate its 60th anniversary with this big roundtable review? I don't know how many times I've seen this film, Simon. I wouldn't like to count. Probably as many as Star Wars. Obviously, mainly because it was very, very accessible on television by the time I'd got to that particular age. But it was something that I discovered sort of in the corners. I remember finding a few pictures in an old annual of something that looked a bit like Doctor Who, but wasn't. and pictures of a cast that I was completely unfamiliar with, even though I've been reading Doctor Who weekly. And again, we've talked about this before, how we pieced together the history of Doctor Who when we were children back then, because you couldn't do a search, could you? Couldn't just hop over onto Wikipedia and see what came after what. And so for them to plop a feature film somewhere in the middle of all that we had to work out where that comes into it as well.
It was really bizarre, and I'm very grateful to Rob Alexander in the chat. Thank you, Rob, for confirming that I was right. My memory was correct in that I would have first seen this film apparently on the 10th of June 1978, so I was 10 years old. And I remember just reading about it in the Radio Times, Doctor Who and the Daleks, and I was just like, what is this? It made absolutely no sense to me at all. There's a film? When was how did I miss this? So you're right, Dan. It literally just landed, and I had no idea at all about it. And of course, this is years before I ever got to see the William Hartnell story. Although I had read the David Whittaker book by that point, just about, but only just about. I'd only recently read the David Whittaker novelization of the Hartnell series, so it was familiar to me. But it was just completely bizarre that it did just come out of nowhere, and I had no concept. And I just remember my mind was literally blown by seeing this thing on TV, because it is such a great film, as we will discover, as we talk about it. But I remember seeing it on the cinema screen as well. Has anybody else here seen it on the cinema? No. Yeah, as in back in the day, or is that a recent screening, Luke? You've seen it sort of relatively recently, have you?
Yeah, so they did a screening of it in. They did like a re-release, and
they
screened it in Home Cinemas in Manchester.
When was that? Recently, a couple of years ago?
Like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Around 2022, 23-ish, they did it. Yeah.
Whereas I saw the original release, as in before the re-release, way back in probably around about 1980. They were screening them on my ABC cinema, and somebody else has been chatting about this in the chat, that it would be screened. I remember going to a double bill with this and the second movie in the ABC cinema in Walsall, way back, as it would have been about 1980. So it was, and it would obviously quite frequently come around. Probably once a year it would come around, and I'd go and see it again on the big screen. Great, happy days.
Irresistible, I would think. I mean, and it's delicious, the thought of that, particularly if you are kind of a little bit fascinated with that time in British popular culture history in the way that I am. To recreate some of that excitement as best we can, here's a look at a specially prepared trailer for the film, and some of those hair-raising moments, I think, that would have stayed with kids then and certainly stay with me even now. Check it out.
This is TARDIS, our time and space machine. Off we go.
Something terrible happened here.
Exterminate them.
What are we going to do?
Fight them.
Yay.
Wow.
That's such a good trick.
It is.
That's really good.
Obviously, in recent years, as with a lot of old movies, technology has evolved to such an extent, and the market for home entertainment has expanded to such a degree that boutique labels can spend time and money making those films look like they were released last year, as good as they would have looked back then, probably better than they would have looked at the cinema back then because of the limits of projecting technology all the way back in the mid-60s. But the colour immediately strikes you, Gary, the kind of the flavour, the sense of adventure.
Oh, before I get into talking really quickly about how much I've always adored this movie, I'm wondering, I can't, on this poster, I'm wondering whether this poster, that poster is what a year later gave David Whittaker the inspiration for the Dalek assembly line that he put in Power of the Daleks, because that's what that poster looks like. It looks like all the Daleks in a row coming off the Dalek assembly line.
Yeah, yeah, quite right.
Because none of these things happen in a bubble, do they?
Yeah, I mean, I think I first saw this movie from, renting it from a video store. I mean, after I started to see like some of the Tom Baker stuff. It was a release, if I remember correctly, it was like an orange box, and I think it was like they called it like a double feature. I think both movies were on it. There was like a picture from Doctor Who and the Daleks on the top, and then on the bottom was a picture from the second one. But I think the movies were short enough where they could like squash them both onto one video cassette. And that's probably like where I saw it. And of course, it was different from what I'd been used to seeing with, Tom Baker and stuff. But I think I'd probably read somewhere like on a Famous Monsters magazine or something that this was a movie that was kind of similar but different from the TV show. And I've always loved this movie. I love the color. I mean, last night when I was watching it again for the umpteenth time, I love the red and gold Dalek. That's got to be like my favorite Dalek of all time.
I agree, Gary.
Yeah, and the Dalek that comes in with the little flamethrower to kind of open the elevator door. I thought to myself, oh, this is the kind of Peter Cushing version of the special weapons Dalek. Without all the oil, but it's the one they bring in when they need to cut through something. I love. The one thing I love the most about this movie, I love that Susan and are we going to call him the Doctor, or should we refer to him as Doctor Who?
I was thinking of him as Doctor Who.
Okay, I love the fact that Susan and Doctor Who are both science prodigies, but they're also like playmates. And they're kind of like conspirators who want to go and explore. It's like, oh, should we go explore? Oh, yes, let's, and they're like little, they have these like look to give each other. They're like little, kids wanting to go out and play and explore. I love Doctor Who's protectiveness towards Susan. And I actually think that, when I think of the character of Susan, I think for me, the character of Susan works much better as this age, rather than the high teen age played by Caroline Ford. Nothing against Caroline Ford. I'm just talking about the character. This version of Susan works for me just so well.
I think it's effective, Gary, because partly of the leaner runtime, partly because of the target audience intended to be far, far larger, but it's also much more intimate. It's much more intimate too. And so it feels, I wouldn't necessarily say it's the heart of the film, but each moment they're together, I think is something that anybody can relate to. There are times in the film where I feel like I'm watching an episode of something like Lost in Space with all the big colors and the running around from place to place to place, backwards and forwards all the time, kind of like that. But the relationships in Lost in Space weren't like the relationships in this. And there's not a great deal of time for too much introspection, because the adventure, it's high adventure. In many people get split up and sent off to various different places throughout the film. But because the characters are built so well, I think because the script is so nicely pointed for this, for the purpose, repointed for the purpose, the characters survive intact, and the connections between them feel completely real.
And you know what? This movie moves. I mean, 6 minutes in, they're already on Skaro.
Yeah.
So this movie just absolutely keeps going. I got to say that I really like that they call it TARDIS and not the TARDIS, because somehow, and maybe it's just me, just not calling it it somehow gives me more of a sense that it's more than just a simple invention. It's almost kind of like a being in itself, and its name is TARDIS. I don't know why I get that sense.
Well, that of course was was kind of one of the original intentions of Doctor Who right back when. Anthony Coburn, that was one of his things. That's why he called it TARDIS, was because he considered it to be one of the characters. He considered TARDIS to be a character. That was sort of part of the original kind of plan, and it still rests in the program to a little a small extent in that it's always characterized as a not a living being, but that it's got some sort of sentience, and so that sort of lives on. But I agree. I love the fact.
I think there's a connection here between real science and what's on screen. I think the idea is actual scientific innovation that over the preceding decades, where various things have been tapped, the atom had been split, energy had been harnessed, generated, and just as Gary described, it's as if the Doctor Who here has kind of, either accidentally or through a process of experimentation, trapped something or hit upon something very precise, which he has now captured and encased in a police box and popped it in his shrubbery.
Yeah. I love his. I mean, and I think the kind of absent-minded professor characterization is absolutely fine with me. I think the genius first slow pan between Susan reading a book that's as big as she is, and then Barbara reading a science book, and then he's reading The Eagle, going, "Oh, that's exciting." That right there in that one scene tells you everything about the characters right away that you need.
And not a word is spoken. It reminds me of the opening sequence to Back to the Future, Charlotte. So we get a pan across the room in that as well before Marty plugs in the amp, just as Gary described.
Yeah, what I love about the colour, and this was the era of the Technicolor movies, wasn't it, when they were really sort of celebrating and really going for the fact that they could do these rich colours. So you can tell when they were designing sets. Obviously, the other big example for here is Wizard of Oz, because that was the big also thing of, look, we've got colour. So every bit of the set where they could have maybe gone like, oh, we'll do a bit of colour, it was like, no, let's jam as much as we can. And that's what I love about these movies. And like now, I feel like movies are going duller and duller with the colours, and like here they're celebrating it, and that's what I love. But for the character stuff, that setup is lovely for, like you said, all the family. But then I love how then it really acts as like, when Ian appears, he does feel like an outsider. He does sort of feel like this sort of doesn't quite belong. He's trying to sort of look good in front of him. And that's what I find interesting about both the movies, is that you have characters by name, but they clearly have different dynamics, and they have clear different sort of storylines and intentions. So having a relationship sort of subplot in this one, I actually find that really interesting to play with here. That, like I said,
the complexities, because in the original serial it was taken from, you've got quite complex relationships and a quite complex serial story. It was impossible for both of those to survive through to an adaptation of this purpose. And I would imagine they would have decided on the length of the film quite early, Luke. We want to bring it in at, say, 100 minutes at the most. Most films around then were about 85 minutes long. So that would have probably been something that they went through quite mercilessly. And so rather than, she's a teacher, she teaches this subject, he teaches that one, it's better to have it whereby this character, Ian, is simply trying to impress his the patriarchal figure in his girlfriend's life. Again, a great many people are going to be able to relate to that. It's a nice, lean shorthand, so you can get stuck into the screenplay and into the action.
Yeah, I think lens-wise, I think it's bob on. I think, the characterizations as well. I thought Peter Cushing was fantastic. He plays the bumbling granddad who's just out for a bit of adventure and a bit of fun. I was watching it. I forgot how good Roy Castle was in this. I was watching it before I come on because I haven't seen it in a little while, and I was like, he was just so good. I think they got the casting bob on. The story as well, it moves at a breakneck pace, but you even get them running down the corridors. It looks and shot beautifully. My missus came home and walked in on the reveal of the Dalek control room, and she was like, "Oh wow!" She was like, "Is this the 60s?" I was like, "Yeah, this is the movie." And she was like, "Oh wow!" She's like, "This looks." She was kind of taken aback by it, but yeah, it's nice to have a good version of.
I tell you what, Luke, you're right. That reveal of the Dalek control room as we follow a Dalek. The door goes up, doesn't it? We follow the Dalek through, and it's just
beautiful.
And it suddenly just goes, wow, widescreen. I mean, it's hugely impressive. Even today, it's still okay. It looks a bit dated. It looks a bit 60s in the actual styling, but the actual scale of it and the way it's revealed is beautiful. It's magnificent.
Simon, do you think they were deliberately trying to wow children in that way? The kids who had seen it on the TVs.
Totally, 100%. The thing is, with Subotsky, because of his background, he knew that you put the money up on screen. That's where it needed to go. You needed the wow factor. He was very much of that ilk, and so absolutely, with the money that they spent on this film, he wanted to see it on screen. And so, yes, it was totally the idea that this would be so much more impressive than the BBC version. He got the fact that it had got to be cinematic. You couldn't just do a big screen color version of the Daleks. He knew it had got to wow people. It had got to be widescreen. And the thing more than anything that I think reveals that is actually when the rock wall parts. It's literally like back in the day, and you'd go into the cinema. I don't know whether you can remember this, and the screen would widen out. You'd see the black bars. Like they still do it occasionally. You see it widen. And so what he did by putting that on screen, he's literally saying, "Look how big our screen is." You look at that shot again, and it's massive.
I thought you were going to say, do you remember when the front of the cinema used to open and a guy would pop up playing an organ?
I'm not that old, cheeky devil. I'm not that old. But I say that shot alone, it's made for a widescreen format. It's specifically framed to be widescreen, to say, we're working with a much bigger palette than the 4:3 of the TV screen. So it was very deliberate.
And it feels like throughout all this story and this movie, because they haven't got so much of the time with the Daleks as like the BBC show had, or the original story it's based off, I feel like watching it, they want to impress you as much as they can about what the Daleks are. Like how scary they are, how powerful they are. And so then when they all arrive on Skaro, you sort of go, I feel like there's more foreboding with these Daleks.
I agree.
Because you feel that there's an army of them. I think that's what it is. You feel like it's an entire civilization too. Talk about being impressive and wow factors. I think it's important to say that Peter Cushing himself would have probably been a considerable wow factor. Hugely famous actor, not just in Britain, but abroad as well, overseas, mainly in horror films. It has to be accepted, horrors and thrillers. But he did play good guys and bad guys. He was pretty versatile in that arena. But he'd starred on television and in theatre as well. An actor of great intensity and able to disappear into characters. I mean, I found out this time. Couldn't believe this, Simon. This is mortifying. When he played Doctor Who originally, he was just 52 years old, for Christ's sake.
You're kidding me. That's younger than me. My God. Wow. I'd never clocked that.
And you can tell he's having the time of his life doing this. Like, you could say that he's kind of doing what Hartnell did. We now know that Hartnell wasn't as infirm as he appeared on television, even though he had his health problems. Cushing also plays this a lot more doddery than he actually was, but charmingly, winningly so. He was a screen legend throughout his life, eventually passing away in 1994. Jenny Linden was also in the cast. Now, she was a kind of a young hopeful, I suppose, one of the faces at the time, an actress that people had sort of earmarked for other things. She's had several roles on TV and would do shows like The Champions and various things like that, but would eventually become very successful in, what's it called, Women in Love with Oliver Reed, a huge movie that was very sort of culturally relevant in the late 60s. So she was just 25 years old playing Barbara. And just as Luke said, well-known actor, singer, dancer, all-rounder Roy Castle, another British entertainment legend, was cast as her boyfriend, Ian. Roy Castle also died in 1994, completing the cast as Doctor Who's younger grandchild was Roberta Tovey, who was just 10 years old at the time, bringing a character to life with more sophistication than you would imagine somebody of that age would be capable of bringing in a character that I understand has followed her throughout her whole life.
Yeah.
She plays Susan as, and I think this is key to the success of this character in this movie. She plays Susan as precocious, but not obnoxiously precocious, which a lot of TV shows and movies do, where they're like stuck up or, somebody that the kids in the audience couldn't relate to. This would absolutely be somebody who any kid watching this would be, oh, I'd love to have her as a friend. And, the one thing that struck me last night as I was watching it is the scene where she's going back to get the drugs from the TARDIS, the way that's filmed. And I was picturing myself, if I was a little kid kind of scrunched down in my seat, looking up at this huge screen, the scene where she is moving through the forest and reacting to every sound and all the branches and everything would be really scary. I mean, they don't film that scene to be scary, but if you're like a little kid looking up and seeing all these like sounds and the music kind of is intense and everything, and she sees this, hand toucher and all of that, I thought, wow, if I was like 5 years old watching this in the theater, I'd be scared at this scene.
Would have been the easiest thing to get wrong, Sarah, wouldn't it? To particularly to put kids off. A precocious kid puts kids off right away.
Oh yeah, and what I love about her is she's never hysterical. There's no screaming from Susan in there.
Oh, she's really chilled individually, and she's really grown up.
Which is, such a stark contrast to Carol Ann Ford, bless her. But yeah, I think she's not irritating. She's clever. She's resourceful, and yeah, she's really believable. And she's one of the standout. I mean, all the cast is good. I think. If I've got to grumble about something, I thought Barbara was a little more one-dimensional in this. But with it as lean as it is, obviously sacrifices have got to be made. She's there in essence, but I was kind of like, where's Barbara's moment? Where's Barbara's moment? We get it towards the end. But yeah, it's just fascinating. Like Charlotte was saying, we know these characters, but seeing them, they're just slightly different. Like you're just viewing them through a different lens.
Sarah, I loved when we were chatting about this last night. You sort of said this idea of it's like a warped lens. That idea of like the mirror just being slightly off. And I think that's the best way to describe this.
It's alternate universe. It was so funny because when I was watching it last night for this, the unique selling point with my kids was, you want to watch Grand Moff Tarkin play Doctor Who? and it went because they were on the Xbox and they both looked up like meerkats. What did you say? And they came and they
clever, very clever, Sarah.
They came running and they were watching it. Yeah, their minds were blown. So there you go. There's still magic in this 60-year-old film.
You know what, Sarah? One of the other things that I love about this film is the relationship of all four of them, and between Susan and Doctor Who in particular, is very, very sweet. This is a much sweeter, in inverted commas, film than the original Daleks serial that it came from. That Dalek series is very, very dark and very grim, and there's not many laughs in it, if we're honest. Whereas the movie is although it's got that gravitas and the scare factor of the Daleks, as we've talked about, it's still a really pleasant, sweet film, and it's all down to the relationships, and that's one of the things I like about it. It's a very different beast to the Dalek serial that it came from because of the relationships.
There's so much humour in it, which I'd
Yeah.
forgotten about, and it works, especially in those early scenes, and
Yeah.
the running gags. And I forgot, how good Roy Castle is at the physical comedy.
Oh, that whole scene when his legs go.
Yeah.
And I
Yes.
always found in the original, like you could tell they weren't playing it for laughs, that scene, but it just came across really comedic. The poor way like it was just delivered. But here, it doesn't feel like that, even though, like you said, you've got an actor who's clearly very good at physical aspects. But it feels more grounded, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
when
yeah,
you
it does.
get that whole scene with Ian and his legs.
Well, like the scene, Charlotte, where he's just trying to get through the door.
Yes, I love that scene.
I've wondered, because this was turned around so quickly, and obviously they didn't cast in the way that they cast now, did they? Whereby they would put combinations of actors together who are going to play together in movies or TV shows, Luke, and see how they gel together. They wouldn't have done that then. But to assemble the cast for this as quickly as they did, I suppose Peter Cushing and Roy Castle were fairly dependable, and you get a couple of young up and comers. But then to balance those elements so precisely, I mean, would that have been something that the cast would have arrived at, or would it have been set very firmly, do you think, by the director, Gordon Fleming?
Oh, well, I don't know. The longer you rehearse, and Simon can probably say about this as well, because when you rehearse with cast, you get into the flow, you know each other's quirks, their tics, like their delivery, how to bounce off each other. So it comes with time and rehearsal. I'm not sure how much time or rehearsal they had on this because it was such a quick turnaround, but you can see that camaraderie and that gel like almost instantly, and everyone just looks like they're having like the best time there. And it comes across well on screen, and it does come across like a big fun family adventure. And it is right, the serial is dark, the TV show is dark, but you got Peter Cushing, who's a very warm version of the Doctor. He's very mischievous. He's always up to something, and he's your cheeky granddad. Where William Martin was a bit more stern, and then he come round. But like you can imagine Peter Cushing, like if you went out with him, he's the one who's like, let's go in the bumper cars over there, or he's chucking something off a pier at a seagull or something. I don't know. He's always up to something, and you can see they all balance each other out really, really nicely. And the casting's phenomenal. It's
so watchable, Luke. I mean, if ever this is on, if I ever catch this on a cable channel, they've been on numerous cable channels over the years, or if ever I decide to dig out the disc to take a look at it for one reason or another, if this gets me for longer than say 2 or 3 minutes, I know I'm going to be watching the whole thing. It's incredibly watchable.
Yeah, for something made back then as well to still be so watchable now as well, and to take what is obviously it's a classic story, but it is a slog at times, and then to condense it down and have it be this one cohesive story that flows well. And to me, I think it's a lot more watchable than the TV version itself, and I enjoy it a lot more, and I get a lot more out of it, and I enjoy Peter Cushing's interpretation of Doctor Who, and I absolutely love the TARDIS as well. The boxes. The movie box is my favorite box of all time. I think it's absolutely glorious. Yeah, what they did with it is fantastic, like absolutely fantastic.
One thing that's just occurred to me, Luke, thinking about it now, in many ways, this is almost Doctor Who and the Daleks strikes me almost as how Doctor Who would have been done by Disney in the 60s. It's actually quite, and I say this these days we talk about Disney often in a very critical way, but I'm saying this in a very positive way, that you think of those classic 60s and 70s Disney movies, and actually this is quite Disney. I can't this kind of thing I would imagine Disney would have done with Doctor Who had they got the rights for it.
Could it have been, Simon, partly because a lot of those live action Disney movies from the 50s and the 60s, several of the key ones were made in Britain?
Yeah, absolutely. It could. It could well be. It could well be that also that obviously Amicus and Subotsky as one of the producers was being influenced by that Disney sort of ethic. Disney at this point in the mid-60s, Disney was just ginormous. You know, every film that they put out was a massive box office success. So, you know, you couldn't blame Amicus for trying to sort of ape that style if that's what they were trying to do. And I'd never actually seen it until Luke was saying, and I kind of thought, you know what, this is now I think about it, it does. It reminds me of 60s and 50s Disney movies. It's got
Captain
that feel.
Nemo and Kirk Douglas in 20,000 Leagues
Spot
Under
on.
the Sea.
That's it, Dan.
Yeah.
Could you imagine, Simon, had this been done like in the 60s, you would have had like Dean Jones as Ian. You would have had Haley Mills.
Haley Mills.
Susan,
or she could actually even, she was already like a very late teen. She could do, you know, Barbara or whatever. But I mean, you know, I got to say with Barbara in this, I would have loved, I know, like I said, I know one of the strengths of this movie is that it moves. I still would have liked to have just like one scene with Susan and Barbara, who don't get a lot of time together. And I think it's interesting that they're both his granddaughters, but they don't specify, are they sisters or are they cousins? It's just they're both his granddaughter. But you know, I got to say that I do love Royal Castle in this movie, but it just seems that this Barbara is like a little bit too posh and glam for this Ian. It's like, why would somebody like so posh and glam with this huge beehive hairdo be with this klutzy guy, you know, when she probably has like guys, you know, knocking each other over to kind of hang out with her. But anyway,
I get the impression, Gary, that he's actually probably most of the time quite cool, but goes to pieces when he's around her because she's hot.
Yeah, and I do got to say that my favorite scene in the movie is a Barbara scene, actually. And that's the scene where they're trying to lure the Dalek into the cell, right? They have their plan. And then she yells, Dalek! And the Dalek turns and goes, yes. And she slams the goo on him. I just, the idea of the Dalek turning and answering like, yes? What do you want? That just makes me...
I've got to admit that some of these Daleks, they're very polite and well mannered at first, aren't they? They're very, come this way.
And you know, well, interestingly enough, you know, we're talking about how the cast really gelled. This movie was only filmed in 6 weeks. So if you assume that they weren't working on the weekends, that's a pretty fast turnaround for a movie to be filmed.
6 weeks. I didn't know that.
But back in those days, they did, and Hammer was the same. You mentioned Hammer at the beginning, Dan. You know, those studios, they were the same. They absolutely churned them out. It was much more of a kind of a production line that they just hit the ground running and they just absolutely churn it out. And now it would take 6 months to make rather than 6 weeks. But that again is part of the charm. It's actually quite simple, and on the one hand it's very spectacular, and as I say, the money is definitely up there on the screen, but it's actually quite a simple story. It's quite simply told. There are only a few sort of absolute sort of knockout shots, if you know what I mean, although those knockout shots are brilliant. You know, I think of things like the matte painting that they use for the mountain. You know, it still absolutely stands up there now. As I was saying earlier, that the wall moving back, the rock wall just sort of parting. There's some great set pieces in there, and they carefully chose where they were spending their money. But as a result, they could make it quite quickly because it's quite simple.
There's some beautiful shots as well. I really love, you know, the transitions when the Daleks are watching them on the camera and then it goes through. And it's so simple and effective, but it just looks wonderful. And there's another shot, the gold Dalek, where it's been filmed like looking up at it and it looks absolutely massive. And I thought, wow, on a cinema screen, that must have just looked incredible. And again, it makes it look much more impressive.
And I still think one of the best shots is actually not this one in the jungle, but it's the one when that you had up earlier, Dan, when they first arrive in the jungle. And it's just a beautiful shot, and it's just so subtle. And the music is just, it's all so low key that you've just got the TARDIS just sitting there in this really impressive jungle set. And it is a really impressive jungle set.
Yeah.
And the
Even
camera
now.
cranes, and it's just beautiful. It's you know, it's literally lyrical. It's elegiac. It's romantic. I love the way it's shot.
I love
Go
how
on,
they use
Charlotte.
I love how they use contrast. So like you've got the forest here, you've got the mountains, and then you've got the Dalek city. And like the shot which I was like, wow, that just shows it, is when the Thralls are running away because they don't realize it's a trap.
Yeah.
And you just see this mass of people come out of the building, and
Yeah.
they just look like ants.
Yeah.
Like that's the feeling
Yeah.
you get. But because of like they're running out into the wilderness almost, it just really shows this idea of what the original story did very well, which is two different groups being very different in look and feeling and thinking, and how like when they try and cross, when they try and communicate, it all goes wrong. And I just think you can almost see all that in one shot because of the set and the staging, and just because it's a film, you can have all those extras.
Well, but also that I think Charlotte is also why I like the direction so much, because they do put the money up there. You can see they don't build this massive set and then just show little corners of it.
Yeah.
No, they just go the full works. And say, here we are. This is it. It's huge. We spent the money. We did it, and they're very proud of that. And I like that. And you're right. You see all those people just pouring out, and it's impressive. It feels cinematic. It feels on a big scale.
Sorry, go on, Gary.
No, I was really quick. I was just going to say, those initial jungle scenes really do give me like a Planet of Evil vibe, which I think, and also I was really paying attention last night to the scene where they're going into the swamp area. Now it's obviously, we know the studio is probably kind of small, but the way that they backlight it with different colors, there's like a green or purple, it makes it seem like, much more of a kind of a wide vista when they're kind of, going in that swampy area than it realistically was, but they light it as such to create a real sense of depth to these. Go ahead, Sarah.
I was just going to comment on the picture that you put up of the Dalek, the actual mutant. I love how they went with the same colour scheme. It's still green and gold, like the Falls, to just hit home that this was what they were the same race a long time ago, and look how how far
Look
they've
how they
come.
split. Yeah.
I just love the visual reference for that.
I love that photo there with the blue Dalek right in the middle, looking down. It's like he's looking down saying, What have you stepped in?
Well, we also
got
left
looks like it's making cocktails.
Well, no, we got to
The
point out
lava
the lava lamps. I love the lava lamps in this movie.
Do you know what, Gary? Somebody said in the chat, and I've lost who it was, that said apparently lava lamps were designed in England in 1963. So whoever it was that was saying this reckoned that it could be the very first time that lava lamps ever appeared on film. Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, in fact, Droid, I didn't know.
Hearing you guys talk about light and shade and some of those standout scenes, it brings to mind to me the experience of the average, particularly the average child who'd have been watching this. And you picture modern cinemas, multiplexes on enormous screens, often capacities of a few hundred people. And then I remember what cinemas used to be like when I was a child in the 80s. And they weren't really building cinemas then, but they tended to be a lot smaller. And even the places you go to where there's 2 or 3 screens, there'd be one sort of hero theatre, if you like, that they were really, really proud of. And they always made sure that they were hoovered that bit better. And and there was no litter in them. But there was several other sort of smaller theatres too. And I think, well, what would that light look like? As you, Sarah and Gary, both described this so beautifully. What would that look like? Swirling around a far smaller cinema, theatre than we have now. I think that it would have been very intoxicating. I think it would have been almost sensory for a child of anywhere between, say, 7 and 11 or 12.
Yeah. And I think that you that image that you've just brought up, actually, Dan, is the perfect embodiment of that, because it is the color. You know, this is the thing with this film, which is oddly lacking in the second film, is the color. You know, this is like color by Technicolor. This film, it's just way over the top, but in a good way. You know, they really go for broke on this. Again, they clearly made a decision very early on. If we're going to do this, we're going to do Doctor Who in color, we're really going to do it in color, and they go for it, and the colors are magnificent, and that's one of the things that I love about the film. Just the color, it's just so bright, and although that's going to appeal to kids, it still doesn't come across as a desperately childish movie, if you know what I mean. This is still quite a dark movie. It's quite a heavy movie. It's not the kind of silliness that Disney, again, to come back to Disney, might have put into it, and indeed creeps into the second film with Bernard Cribbins.
There's some brutality that does survive in this.
Good word, Dan. That's
harshness.
I was a kid when I first saw this, and you've just sparked a memory there, Simon, of like the colour is what I remember the most.
Yeah.
I think this was actually probably my earliest doctoral memory before I even knew what Doctor Who was. So I was telling Charlotte, so I was very confused by the time I got to the series and started watching Classic Who, and discovered.
So when did you first watch it then, Sarah? When did you first watch this film?
Gosh, years and years ago. I was a little kid, and it was probably on a bank holiday Monday or during the summer holidays. It was one of them films that used to always come on, and the second one.
But basically, before you started watching Doctor Who with Christopher Eccleston.
Oh yeah, it must have been early 90s.
Yeah, so it's just in isolation you saw this,
and it was just a very pleasant, colourful, fun film. Yeah, like you were saying, the Disney films. I was like the Mary Poppins and Pollyanna and Willy Wonka. There's a lot of Willy Wonka, in this.
Yes, very Willy Wonka. You're quite right.
And like Charlotte already said, Wizard of Oz.
This was seen as schedule fodder for a long, long time, decades. In fact, it seemed. So depending on which season they were in, it would sometimes be shown on television on a Saturday morning, and yet other times it would be tucked away late night on BBC Two. You never really knew where it was going to turn up next. And with the expansion of cable and satellite TV, that just made it even worse. This would literally just turn up anywhere, really. An extraordinary life for a film, which was, you wouldn't describe this as cheap and cheerful, but I think they would have had a certain amount of ambition for it, I would say, but they couldn't have possibly have suspected that we'd still be watching it 60 years later, and it would be pimped out for Blu-ray or 4K in the way that it is. Luke, how did you first discover this, Luke? Were you already watching Doctor Who, or what's your story with it?
Yeah, so I was I've gone to Doctor Who for the revival, and my dad and my uncle got me into the classic series, and they were always on about this one Dalek film that they couldn't remember what it was. They couldn't remember, and they got me the Dalek Invasion of Earth, the William Hartnell version. They got me the actual serial on DVD. My dad watched it, and he was like, "This is right, but not right," and it was different. I remember going to, I think we were in Blackpool, and we went to the Doctor Who museum, Doctor Who exhibition, and in the corner of my father's eye, he spotted the DVD, and he was like, "That's the one." He was like, "That's what I'm on about." And so we got it. And
process of elimination.
So I still got it now. So it's this version I got.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's the old one that it was a bit battered, but yeah, got some nice little film cells as well with it. So
nice.
I remember that edition coming out. Yeah, it was quite a big chunky box, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's battered, but this is the first time I watched it, and I fell in love with it. I was like, this become a bit of comfort watching there. And I was like, it's brilliant. Can you imagine though being a kid in the 60s watching the Daleks originally on your little black box 4x3, really grainy and dark, and then going to the cinema and seeing that, you'd be in absolute awe and wonder and be like, oh wow, this is what it could be and should be. Really, it's like, yeah, that's so jealous to have that experience. But yeah, so 2005, 2006 was the first time I cast my eyes on it.
And really quick, while we're talking about colors, we can't neglect that all the different colors of eyeliner that the Thals were using. That's probably one of the best use of colors in this. And I like the fact that not only do we get the lava lamps, but we have the little cellophane, all the colored cellophane on the walls of the city for some reason. And I love kind of toward the end that huge stack of multicolored Lego blocks that for some reason are just sitting in the control room. It's like this big stack of what looked to me like giant Lego blocks, and they're just there. I don't know what they do or what they're used for, but it's like more color. So okay,
exactly. It's more of what Charlotte said right at the start. No space is kind of left bare for whatever. I think it's partly attention to detail, Charlotte. I think partly they probably had a lot of fun, kind of not throwing it together. But I would imagine that in that 6 week period of time, and maybe obviously a bit of pre-production, it would have been a burst of creativity in many respects. But so I wanted to ask you the same question as I just asked Luke, really. How did you first find it? Do you remember?
Well, the Peter Cushing Doctor had been something I knew about purely because, lo and behold, Doctor Who fans, is he canon? Does he count?
Like, and you heard the arguments before you saw the film.
Yeah. I'd heard all those arguments, and I was just like, so what? There was a Doctor Who which half the fan base seems to think is real and the other half doesn't seem to believe exists. So then I found out they were movies, so I watched them. I think it was at least 5 years ago, I think the first time I watched these. Because like I said, I was a bit like Sarah, I was picking bits of classic to watch. I was getting through that, like more near the end of when New Who was on. And I just remember being really intrigued, and like these were a curiosity watch, I'll happily admit that to begin with. And then the more I watched them, like I said, I just got more and more intrigued and sort of interested at here's a different creative team, here's a different person having a go at Doctor Who. And like you said, you've got Peter Cushing, and to have him, that I could see either whether he was doing it on purpose or not, the cues almost from Hartnell. But we've sort of said this, he's very clearly a lot softer, a lot more sort of attentive, and a lot more sort of, he'll show his emotions a bit more, whereas Hartnell was very sort of locked down. It took a while for that to crack. So yeah,
Sorry.
Yeah, I just, like I said, I find them as just a really interesting, just sort of different part of the Doctor Who universe. That they definitely have their merits, they definitely have their skill, and like I said, that creativeness which just bleeds in every part of this. But yeah, it was purely just, what's all these arguments about? I'll watch them.
If there's something Dickensian about the way that William Hartnell was playing the part on the television, I think this is, maybe some of that survives in this, but I just think it owes as much of a debt to kind of the Wizard of Oz, that kind of avuncular, slightly humorous figure, something of the kind of vaudeville about it. But Cushing, being as consummate as he was, couldn't help but bring something out from within himself, as much about what he wasn't saying as that which he was. And working hard at those relationships too with all of the actors he was working with, but particularly I think at Roberta Tovey, and that's why it's all so effective. I love this film. I sincerely do. This one over time, I think I've probably seen it. I'm not exaggerating. I must have seen this as many times as I've seen Star Wars, and I never turn it off halfway through, like I was saying before. Yeah. It's like seeing an old friend again, and I do know most of the lines. But I notice things every single time. And whether sometimes that's down to the fact that I've got a new edition, Luke, where I can see a bit more. Other times it's because I'm paying a bit more attention. or I've latched on to a different character or a different plot line, which is often the case with most great movies and TV shows too. But there's something about this that's almost hypnotic, and I think it's also partly because it's a big film which does manage to somehow retain a claustrophobia, which I think is there in the script and in the initial concept as well. I think it's largely a huge credit to this set of four performers, actors and actresses in Roy Castle, Jenny Linden, Roberta Tovey, and Peter Cushing. It must have been very intense to make this, and I do wish that they were all still with us to maybe give us that ultimate kind of DVD, Blu-ray commentary track. What would they all have said about it all these years on? I don't know.
They look like they're just having the best time. You can't help but smile at that picture.
And the other thing, of course, to remember, Sarah, is at this point, as I say, Doctor Who was massive. The Daleks were absolutely huge, so they knew that they had kind of fallen on their feet. They'd got a brilliant job in being in the big screen version of Doctor Who. That in itself must have felt amazing.
Must have, absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh no, go ahead, Cheryl.
I'd say, and I think it's so telling that they've managed to do this in the 60s and 70s, and with all the advances and with all how the show got bigger in a lot of senses and it came back and all that they still haven't managed to crack a movie, but they did here. So for me, that shows there clearly was something in the air that was just right for these actors, the producers, the direction, the people who did the sets, to all come together and just be able to make something this good, which hasn't been repeated to this day, which I find amazing.
The question I've asked several times throughout my time as a Doctor Who fan, and conversations I've had at numerous junctions, whether Doctor Who on television has been in production or not, when people say, "Oh, the next logical step is to make a movie," or Doctor Who belongs on the big screen, this is where it needs to go next. And I'm not convinced by any of that, but I don't think Doctor Who as a concept, as a mode of as the hybrid that it is at sea when it's on a bigger screen. I think with sensitive handling and the right script, then if something like this is possible in 6 weeks to shoot, I think it's probably about 4 or 5 months with pre-production, post-production, or whatever. If that was possible then, what could be possible now? I wouldn't want something instead of a TV show. Doctor Who is a TV show, but this still works as a proof of concept, I think, and I just think it's sensational. The more I think about it, I would recommend this to absolutely anybody.
Yeah, I think it's one of those films that it's enormous fun. I honestly can't imagine why anybody would watch this film and not enjoy it. I don't think you have to be a Doctor Who fan to enjoy this film. I just think it's one of those films that, any family would just put on and you'd just enjoy that. Yeah. What is there not to enjoy in this film? The second movie is much more of a curate's egg, I think, whereas this one, no, this is just kind of an absolute bona fide fun family film.
Inspirational.
I actually I own more copies of this than any other movie. I mean, I have the one from 2013, and then I have this one from Kino Lorber.
That's beautiful.
And then I got the Steelbook. The Steelbook one.
Oh, that's beautiful.
This is the version that I think the Severin one is. I think that this is the UK version.
Mostly, yeah.
And then I even have really quick, Simon, I know probably has this, the magazine.
I remember it well.
Who magazine special from 1994, I think that was.
Yeah, there you go. And even an issue of the Doctor Who Classics
Yeah.
comic, which reprinted the US Gold Key version
Yes.
of it, and then the great book about both of the movies.
Yeah.
With that's come out. So and it's just even great. This is a movie that's just even fun to read about, even if you're not watching it. Just how they did it. It's just
Gary,
great.
you know, I'm a huge comic book fan as well. American comic books, got quite a collection, and I have never ever come across a single copy of the original Gold Key edition of Doctor Who and the Daleks at all ever. This Dell edition.
You know what pains me on this, Dan, is the 12-cent thing, considering how much comics cost now.
How much is that worth now, Gary?
I wouldn't describe it as a holy grail, because I've just never come anywhere. I've never seen it in any condition at all.
No, me neither. I've never seen it in any museums or anything like that. Any of the exhibitions that pop up, I agree, Dan. I've never seen it in real life either. I'd love to.
I'm fascinated that it describes the Daleks as robots. Surely that's the bone of contention in fandom.
Was ever thus, Sarah.
Shorthand in the mid-60s was always the way to go with these things. But John Walsh's big book from about 3 years ago now. It's still available, still in print, again featuring that fantastic, beautiful poster from the 1982 VHS release, which I think was probably the first time I ever saw it's sort of commercially accessible in any way. When I first had a VCR, as we now call them, but a video. Just get a video.
I remember, Dan.
On the telly. I
remember going into John Menzies. Anybody else remember John Menzies? I remember going in and seeing it was like sort of another version of W.H. Smith's, wasn't it? There we go. And I remember seeing that one on the shelf in John Menzies. I can't remember how much it was, but it was. I seem to have in my brain it was like about £60 or something like that, which was a phenomenal amount of money, even in now for a video cassette. But in 1982, can you imagine, Sarah? 1982, 60. It might have been 40. I might be wrong. It might have been 40. It was a phenomenal amount.
Still a lot of money. That really is.
And I really wanted to buy it, Sarah. Of course I did. Especially with that cover. The cover was just so fabulous.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
And obviously couldn't afford it.
Of course, that's the one I just got recently, Dan.
Oh,
the big old. So I got the vinyl 4K version. That comes with one of these little funky doodads. That's a little bit 3D.
The hologram.
Oh, yeah, the hologram. That's the one. And you also got some lovely prints there. To be fair, I looked at these. So you got that. You got them looking there.
That's lovely.
Oh, that's good. That's a nice one.
Oh, it is.
I've never seen those before. Wow.
Yeah, so I picked that up last year, and I got the same for the sequel as well. So that's my version.
Yeah, it's a nice edition.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Really, really nice. Of course, the beauty of these films when they make their way, any film when they make their way to video, is that unlike when you go to the cinemas when you're a kid, you can wait for the interval, I suppose, and for somebody to come around with the cornetto and all the rest of it. But when you got a film on video in your own home, whether it was Herbie Rides Again or or Flash Gordon or The Black Hole, whatever you were renting that week or that month, part of the novelty initially was being able to stop it and pause it wherever was convenient to you. And we're going to do that right now as we head in for another Type 40 Live Doctor Who and the Daleks ad break. This is some real gold from way back then in TV history, with more golden faces and golden voices. More from us in a couple of minutes when we come back for more Doctor Who and the Daleks.
Everybody needs more work. Sis finds cover plus the right paint and saves money on the white paint. Larry carries ladders round with ease. He gets all the help he needs from his long extension lead. And Fiona's Flymo more is sure to please. This growing board, even Jill can carry just that water. Wow! And Harry finds going straight for Woolies value really pays. Everybody needs a Woolworth store these super switch off kettle is what switches on Samantha. Brian's Binatone is great for his cassettes. His Chevron selection is a positive collection, and he thinks his chair's the best invention yet.
No, it happens.
For a man in his position, and for everyone who's listening, you can prove it in so many different ways. Everybody needs a Woolworth store these days.
Wait a minute, Dick, where'd you get this belt?
It's pre-war.
It's preposterous, my son. Faking off Keller, Liechtenstein.
Yes. It's a bit of a gothic monstrosity.
Dickie, haven't you got any real Holston pills where the sugar turns to alcohol?
I've only got one more bottle left in the cellar.
Oh, the cellar! I'm not falling for that, old one.
Holston Pills production.
Back here with more from your Type 40 Live, the Big Who on Rumble, X, YouTube, and on Facebook too. This time reaching back to the past exactly 60 years ago when the Doctor Who and the Daleks movie, the original Doctor Who feature film, was in cinemas all over Britain and making its way all over the world. Enough to make a song and dance about, I feel, this time. We've been taking comments on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook. Let's see what you've got to say about all of it so far as we welcome everybody back into the console room for another chin wag here. We're here, we're present, we're correct, as we'll ever be. Thank you, everybody, for listening to our sort of ramble through the film there. We've got Stephen Braddock in the live chat there saying he first saw it in 1978 on the telly box.
Yeah, me too.
Weren't alone. Each screening would have brought new disciples to the church, I think. Funky says it's a bit like the following year seeing Batman in colour with Adam West. Yeah, the Batman movie came out in '66. I forgot about that, Gary. It's in a similar vein, you know, except with more Dutch angles in the Batman movie.
And more bombs you can't get rid of.
Shocks. More shocks. Domgo says, I don't even remember when I saw this as a kid. The Doctor was just a human, so he hadn't clocked out. I think that's what he means. Ian Scales says, I seem to remember it being repeated on TV during my childhood a few more times. It was probably like the Sea Devils. Well, it's nothing like the Sea Devils. What are you talking about?
No, I think what he's saying is the Sea Devils got repeated on television as well. And so I think what he's saying is it feels like it was repeated probably more frequently than it actually was.
Oh, I see. Simon Ashley would love to see it in the cinema on the big screen, just like Luke has. That's the one thing I've never done. I've never seen it at the cinema, Sarah. There's not been a single screening near me any of the times that some of the boutique ones have had it. Stephen O'Neill says it's Film 4 that has the rights right now. I think several places do, because it turns up all over the shop. Talking Pictures TV have it. The Horror Channel, which is now the Legend Channel, I think they've got it sometimes too. I can never keep up with wherever it's going to be. That's why I always go for physical media anyway, to be honest, Sarah, because I know exactly where to find it. It's on my shelf. It takes a lot. It just takes a few seconds to whack whichever new edition I've got in. Dalek Lives Matter says they got it just right, casting Peter Cushing. It was a genius move. I agree. And Funky says that for years people said, imagine Doctor Who with a budget, and this was it. And Matthew Pounder suggests there was a touch of gentle whimsy to Subotsky's films. I think they tried to, particularly when you're getting families into a cinema, you're kind of duty bound to do that, and there are lots of fans too of Roberta Tovey as Susan, the one child actress that doesn't make everybody want to throw something out the window, put your boot through the TV or whatever.
She's adorable in it.
She is. I say I've never met her. I know she does quite a lot of events and things like that, and she seems very happy to be part of the legacy and her component part of it. And she did quite a bit afterwards, I think, like Juliet Bravo and the Two Ronnies, dramatic stuff, comedic stuff. So she was on telly. I used to see her name in credits of things, but I don't think she ever became any kind of big star with a long stint in anything. But she's happy to talk about Doctor Who and the Daleks and the second film, from everything that I can see. Lots of fans of the lava lamps and all the various trappings of the 1960s in Britain too. In the live chat as well, Matthew Pounder suggests that Barbara's just the eye candy in this. That's a bit harsh. I think just the eye candy, Luke.
No, not at all. It role is cut down, but you've got to make some sacrifices somewhere. But she does get the moment as well.
Yeah, she gets the moments.
Yeah, I know. Putting the putty on the Dalek's eye is just iconic. So.
Well, and let's remember,
and then wiping it off is even better. It's just like,
and let's remember, she's the one that comes up with the way to get them out of the cells by using it.
She
so
yeah,
everybody has their moment, I think, in this. Philip Roy, what an eye for detail. Phil's got lovely design touch that the stock trees were turned upside down to make them look more alien. I didn't realise that.
They look like hands, didn't they? Like thing, lots of sized thing.
It's a beautiful design. The jungle is magnificent.
Yeah, and I've always thought, because for me the thralls in this are less sort of over, like in classic. I always thought, they're a bit over designed. Like for me, they didn't almost fit in the forest setting that you kept seeing them in. It was like, no, they look spacey. They look almost a bit like Ziggy Stardust. Whereas here, it's like you can tell they've made them less over the top. So for me, that makes more sense.
Yes, Charlotte. They're more believable as farmers.
They're
like
a lot more
peasants.
believable, aren't they?
I know what you mean. We are talking Lord Thoth into parting with some hard-earned cash.
Do it, Lord Thoth. Do it.
Doctor Who and the Daleks. Yeah, it's
I
the
have
last
to buy
time
them
I'm
on
ever
quite regularly.
buying this, Lord Thoth. I'm never buying this again. But I have said that
Yes, you
multiple
are.
times about multiple movies. I probably will at some point in the future. Dalek Lives Matter suggests that the green lighting in this signifies that death is imminent, that it's all color-coded in the way that Hitchcock movies were. I'd noticed that, Simon.
Oh, I'm going to have a look. You've intrigued me now, DLM. I'm going to have a look at that one. You could write a thesis about that if it's correct.
I will say that the one scene, the scene in the movie where I kind of gave up on Ian is where he puts his face in the alien swamp after maybe somebody's already died there, and we don't see what he sees, but it's like, dude, you're on an alien planet where the water's bubbling and you put your face in it. It's like, okay, there's no hope for you.
Deserves everything he gets, doesn't he? Deserves everything he gets. My LMAO, never again, says Lord Thoth there in the live chat. And lots more people saying similar. The Thal's stockpiled eyeshadow.
That was the one bit they allowed them to have, but their outfits otherwise were quite tame.
See, they should have offered to trade the Daleks their eyeshadow for food. Then that could have been.
They do look like they'd fit in. Oh, go on. No, go on.
I was going to say, when they've got the little box with the anti-radiation drugs in it, it does look like an eyeshadow compact of the little brush and stuff. That always makes me smile.
See, this is how a woman's perspective and a man's. To me, it looks like a geometry set from when you're at school with a triangle and the set square, the semicircle in there. All that. So that's what it reminds me of.
No, I was going to say
You can't put eyeshadow on with a protractor, though, can you?
Luke?
Sorry, Luke.
I said the Thals look like they'd be right at home on like the Rocky Horror Picture Show or something. They just like right at the end when they're coming back out, when Richard O'Brien's coming out. That's right. They fit there.
Oh, don't bring up the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I can't stand that. Oh, there.
Oh, did you know, Danny? It's 50 years this year.
Is it really?
Another anniversary.
Yeah.
He's
50
so
long years.
Do you want to buy that Blu-ray?
No, it's hard. It's what they call a hard pass from me on that. But I'll tell you what, I'm not going to pass up on the chance, because Simon Horton's here to dive in to the pages of the Doctor Who diary. What could the big gold book possibly have to say about the silver screen, Simon? I think it's high time that we all find out together, if you're game.
Okay, let's do it. Haha, yes, indeed. Welcome to the diary. We haven't had a diary for a few weeks, have we? So yeah, here we are with the diary. Now, obviously, we're using kind of the diary in the loosest possible sense this time around. But nonetheless, it's basically all about what was happening in the summer of 1965. And so what we're looking at first is the actual release of Doctor Who and the Daleks, because it's quite a protracted release in many ways. Way back in May of 1965, the Daleks, the 8 Daleks that Shawcraft had made for this movie, all got shipped out to Cannes, of course, the movie festival out in France. All 8 Daleks all got sent out to Cannes on the back of a lorry, pretty much, for a sort of a premiere. And there, of course, that is John Lennon bumping into it. He was there, as I recall, he was there promoting Help at Cannes on the Croisette, and the Daleks were also there, obviously promoting Doctor Who and the Daleks. So this was back in May. So that was where there they are. They're being loaded onto the back of this low loader. I've often wondered whether they actually did get shipped out to Cannes on the back of a low loader, or if this was just purely publicity purposes. Did they go out in a plane? I don't know. Well, if anybody out there knows how these Daleks actually got out to Cannes, please tell me.
Well, that one guy's going to knacker his lumbar region if he keeps lifting like that. It's not going to go well.
He has been on a health and safety course, has he done? So there they all go. They all got just loaded onto the back of this low loader and taken out there. All 8 of them. So that was quite impressive, actually. There they all are. It's just got to be a purely a publicity setup photo.
I'd say so, but they all look like extras from sort of a Wallace and Gromit.
You could definitely voice them, couldn't you? Let's be honest.
I hope it's true. I love the idea of, French people driving and then suddenly like looking to the left. See that side, can you imagine?
Sarah, do you know what I'm picturing? Like the French equivalent of the border force being like, what's coming in? Daleks.
Well, of course, and let's not forget, Charlotte, that Doctor Who was not screening in France at this particular time in its history.
Like, just imagine trying to explain to a French person, like, no, they're fine, they're props, but they're what?
They clearly wouldn't have had a clue what these things were. So as I say, these went out to Cannes for a big promotion, big publicity back in May of 1965, and that preceded the premiere of Doctor Who and the Daleks. The premiere itself took place at a cinema called Studio One in London, and that was the sort of the main premiere. There we go. There's the poster for this particular screening of Doctor Who and the Daleks when it was first screened in the summer of '65. There's not really much detail about this, so we don't know whether it was a particularly star-studded event, whether there was a full-on sort of premiere with any of the stars there. We're not too sure. I think, in all honesty, the fact that we don't know that information leads me to the conclusion that actually it wasn't a desperately star-studded premiere. It was just they just screened it and that was it. But what was quite interesting is that at the time that it was being screened, Selfridges in London had a massive set display in their store. They called it Dalek Fortnight, so it was there for 2 weeks, and they apparently the Dalek control room set was reconstructed, rebuilt in Selfridges, so you could go to Selfridges for this Dalek Fortnight. They've got some of the movie Daleks there as well. They've got a lot of the merchandise on sale there that was just beginning to come in. And they did end up with some of the stars apparently dropping into that over the fortnight, probably to do signings and things like that. So that was happening also in the summer. And then in August 1965, that was when the movie went on to national release. And again, Peter Harrington said, you brought up a comment a moment ago from Peter Harrington saying Daleks on tour. Well, actually, that's correct. The Daleks did go on tour because some of the studio sets, again, the control room set and that, they did actually go out on tour when we went out onto with national release, so they'd be going to these kind of cinemas. It was back in those days. What you got to bear in mind is that cinema releases were very different to how they are now. You know, a film gets released nowadays on a specific date, and everybody gets to see the film on the same date. Back in those days, prints of films were actually, they would only. Whereas now films it's all digital, so they just get sent to the file. Back in those days, the studio would only make a certain number of prints depending on how popular they expected the film to be, and so these prints would get would literally get leapfrogged backwards and forwards between different cinemas. As one cinema finished with it, they'd send it on to another one. So there are only a limited number of prints doing the rounds. So it took a long time for the film to be for the film to do the full UK run, and so the film was actually screening for sort of like a couple of months, really, between July, August, September. It was in all manner of places. You had to just wait until your cinema got round to screening Doctor Who and the Daleks. But we were quite lucky in Birmingham. You and I were, Dan. Sadly, we were not born, but so we missed out on it.
That bit.
but in the Lewis's store here in Birmingham, sure enough, we did get the sets, and we got the Daleks, and we even got Roberta Tovey. Roberta Tovey came along to the screening in Birmingham, along, as I say, with all of the sets. And Roberta Tovey did a signing and did photos and stuff. She was quite overwhelmed. She didn't realise that the film, that Doctor Who as a whole, was as massive, I think, as she then discovered it was, when she was just swamped by people all wanting to get her photo and her autograph at this at Lewis's store. And the Lewis's display also went to Manchester, so it went to a few places. So this was a big release, and it went on for a while.
I'd forgotten, Simon, until you mentioned this to me. I'd forgotten, because this was still very commonplace in the mid to late 80s when I was first going to the cinema, without a parent. That, say, Return of the Jedi had come out, or Ghostbusters had come out, and we were aware, we'd see clips from it on Screen Test and things like that. We'd got the Panini sticker album was in the newsagent. You could buy, collect, and swap the stickers, all that, but you had to wait for the film to come round to your local cinema or the one in the next town. You had to wait your turn for these things, and that was very much the case until probably Batman Total Recall, like 30, 35 years ago. It was just the dance that we all had to do without even thinking about it. Then all of a sudden, multiplexes started springing up, and everything was on all at once. You could take your pick. It was a totally different culture around cinema.
Very, very different. Things like Star Wars, I remember, was on for months. Some people had to wait sort of about 5 or 6 months before they got to see Star Wars. It's a very different kind of environment to how it is now. So it was a long old run that this film took. The press, they weren't entirely kind to the movie. The Mirror, for example, at the time said, trying to explain to bewildered young fans why Doctor Who has changed from William Hartnell to Peter Cushing could take up half of the film's running time. Because, of course, kids were confused back in those days. We take it for granted now that the TARDIS has different faces. So you're kind of used to that conceit of the lead actor changing. They weren't used to that in those days. And generally the press were a little bit, they took it to task a little bit. They criticised they still believed it looked sort of low budget, which I do feel was a bit cruel, in all honesty. The budget of the film, in fact, was £180,000, which was a heck of a lot of money back in 1965. It's the equivalent of around about £5 million today. So this was a decent budget for this movie. Each of the Daleks, the 8 Daleks, as I say, that were made by Shawcraft, who of course were the same company that had made the TV Daleks, they cost £350 each, which again, that was a lot of money back in 1965. The press also sort of picked up on the fire extinguishers that were used for the Dalek death rays. Dalek death rays. I can't remember when the word Dalek death rays actually came in. It was not even in the 60s. I don't think they were known as Dalek death rays in those days. But the press picked up on that and the fire extinguishers and said that it was a bit limp. The reason why you ended up with fire extinguishers, actually the director and the producer give 2 different versions of it. Gordon Fleming, the director, says it was because they couldn't afford a ray gun effect, which is what he wanted. He wanted a ray gun effect and they couldn't afford it. So he wanted to go with flamethrowers. That was the next thought. They were going to do flamethrowers. But sadly, according to Milton Subotsky, the BBFC said that flamethrowers would scare the kids. And so instead, they literally went completely the other way and they had the fire extinguishers. Believe whichever of those stories you want to believe. This that you're looking at now is I can still remember these. As I say, I saw this movie at my ABC cinema in around about 1980, and the ABC cinemas always used to have a magazine. You would pick up a magazine, a proper glossy color magazine that had lots. Do you remember them, Dan?
Yeah.
And so this that you're looking at now is from 1965. Obviously, this is from the ABC film magazine of the time, because again, you got to remember, this is obviously in a time way before internet, way before even magazines really were as popular as they were. So, and no, there were no books. There was very little about the movie. In many ways, this was the only way you could relive anything to do with the movie, was to look at this kind of material.
And they tended to be sort of A5 in size, didn't they? And usually in a dispenser at the front of the cinema.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, by the 80s, they'd gone sort of A4. But yeah, they were always sitting at the front of the cinema as you would walk out of the door, very much like Charlotte is about to do now. Charlotte's about to walk out the door.
Segue.
Yeah. Don't forget your magazine on the way out, Charlotte.
No, I was like, Simon's on a roll. I'll just wait. And
You're so polite, but don't forget your magazine on the way out.
No, and thank you for the chat. People were literally before 10 saying, right, night, Charlotte.
Night, Charlotte.
Good night, Charlotte. Thank you.
Next time. Thank you. Good night.
And so that was sort of really the general idea of the release. As I say, it was a very protracted release, and it did well, to be fair. Although the press were quite cruel to it, it actually did it did well. It had a reasonably good success rate at the cinema, at the box office. So all was going well, which is why, of course, they carried on and they did the second movie. But that, of course, is a story for another time. The movie first screened on the television exactly 53 years ago in July of 1972, just after the Time Monster had finished screening. Actually, it went obviously on BBC One, and there we go, as part of the High Adventure serial. This was back in the day. It was very different. They used to have a strand called Saturday Night at the Movies on BBC TV as well.
I remember that.
Do you remember that? And there would always be the James Bond movie. So they literally used to do movies in strands. So Doctor Who and the Daleks was part of the High Adventure strand in 1972, and then just appeared regularly on television after that. Don't know what the viewing figures were like for this. It'd be lovely to know what the viewing figures were like for it. The film review for it there on page 9 was kind of a little bit perplexed by the whole thing. I think it was very much a case of If you like Doctor Who, you're going to love this. If you're not a fan, it's not going to convert you. I think that was the general feeling. So that was the release back in the summer of 1965. Of course, none of us remember it. But it, as I say, it did pretty well at the box office, which would have very much pleased the Amicus, the production company.
It was the 20th biggest British box office draw in 1965. I mean, that's 20th. It doesn't sound like much, but given
that's
the amount
pretty
of
good.
Movies that were, the amount of movies that would have been on release then from all over the world, and the nature of cinema as it was then, I think that was pretty good. I mean, it didn't do so well in the States, which as we famously know, they did promote it over there with Daleks appearing on television and things like that in various guest spots. But obviously it was very, very isolated because it was also unproven, so unknown. They'd only got so much budget for promotion as well, Gary. In the same way that they have a promotions budget now, they would have allocated a certain amount, but for a modest film, you got modest promotion. Therefore, you would expect a modest return, I suppose.
Yeah, I would think that unfortunately, something like this in the States really needed kind of, I would think, strong and unique promotion to kind of just because that would be the way you'd be introducing it to a whole country. You wouldn't be relying on the fact that it's already part of the zeitgeist. Like it was over there. And I'm sure it got some articles like in magazines like Famous Monsters or whatever, but ultimately that doesn't really cause any kind of blips or anything.
No, Doctor Who wasn't screening in America at that point, so you kind of wonder what on earth they would have made of it. But as I say, I mean, it got a big release considering that they took all those Daleks down to Cannes. That would have cost a small fortune back in the day to do that. So that they put some commitment to it, and of course, all of it. The reason we are talking about this now is because of Milton Subotsky. He was absolutely the brainchild behind this, and so we're going to celebrate Milton Subotsky really now because bless him, in true diary style, he would have been 104 this month. It was he was born back in September in 1921, so he would have been 104. He produced and wrote the movie, and indeed the second movie as well. A little bit of background about Milton Subotsky. He was very much a similar kind of character in many ways to Sidney Newman, the guy who obviously created, sparked off the creation of Doctor Who. He was a larger-than-life character by all accounts. He was born in New York City. He began his career writing television for American television in the 1950s, before moving to Britain in the late 50s, early 60s. And he actually became a regular judge on Jukebox Jury in the 60s, because here's a fun fact for you. There we go. Here's a fun fact for you. He really started his career writing rock and roll songs. So he came from very much a musical background before we moved into television. Dalek Lives Matter is quite correct. Subotsky has one hell of a CV. It is quite true. As Dan mentioned earlier on this evening, in 1962 he founded Amicus with Max J. Rosenberg, who was the other producer of Doctor Who and the Daleks. So Amicus really were very much the rival. Well, maybe that's not fair to say they were the rival to Hammer, but they were very much a response to the success that Hammer were having at that point. Hammer had only been making horror movies for 4 years at this point, but they'd gone, stellar, and Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee were enormous box office names by 4 years later in 1962 when Rosenberg and Subotsky started Amicus. And even more so than Hammer, they had wonderfully lurid titles and posters, as you can see here. The Beast Must Die. It doesn't get much more lurid than that. And the poster for the skull, Sarah. I mean, look at that. When the skull strikes, you'll scream.
It makes you think of Image of the Fender Arch.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. It is Image of the Fendal, isn't it? Very much so. Which, of course, was to a small extent inspired by that very movie, by the skull. Other titles: Dr. Terror's House of Horrors, Scream and Scream Again, and now the screaming starts. The House That Dripped Blood, which of course had John Pertwee in a pre-Doctor Who role in that. Tales from the Crypt, from my personal favourite, which I've sung the praises of before, From Beyond the Grave. I still say, if there's any of you out there that have not seen From Beyond the Grave, do yourselves a favour, track it down. It is one of the best of that ilk
You've
of horror
mentioned that
movie.
to me 3 or 4 times now, and I've never seen it.
It's here's an interesting point. It's just been released on Blu-ray in the UK. It was released on Blu-ray in the US quite a few years ago, but it's just come out. 15 quid. Come on Blu-ray.
Am I right in thinking, in the belief that Amicus films tended to be a collection of kind of short stories, like 3 or 4,
more so,
within a main film, with like a bookended by other dramatic
components?
Is that
spot on? Dr. Terror's House of Horrors, Tales from the Crypt, all manner of those films, From Beyond the Grave, yet they're all Asylum. These are all what they call portmanteau films, they became known as, where you've got it was always 4 movies, mini movies within the main movie, and often they were held together by Peter Cushing, bless him. From Beyond the Grave is held together by an absolutely brilliant performance from Peter Cushing. Peter Cushing was in loads of these. As Ian Scales saying at the Earth's Core, yep, Peter Cushing. He was in so many of these Amicus movies. Dr. Terror's House of Horrors, Scream, Scream Again. They're all Peter Cushing. He was massive in these Amicus movies. And so this was really where Milton Subotsky made his name, was in these, as I say, quite lurid movies. You think Hammer is lurid and Grand Guignol. Well, Amicus, pushes it up to 11. It really does. And they were hugely popular. These movies were absolutely massive. Milton Subotsky then went on to... He co-produced actually a number of Stephen King adaptations back in the 90s, things like Cat's Eyes, Maximum Overdrive, The Lawnmower Man. Do you remember The Lawnmower Man?
Yeah, I remember The Lawnmower Man.
There you go. These were all movies co-produced by Milton Subotsky.
What is that Pierce Brosnan movie?
That's The Lawnmower Man.
That's The Lawnmower Man.
It is The Lawnmower Man. All right.
Believe it or not.
Seen it. I've never
Oh,
seen
Gary,
it.
you should watch it.
All right, okay.
Entertaining.
Looks like Poundland Tron.
I just know that's the Green Goblin there with on the top picture.
What was that, Luke?
I said it looks like Poundland Tron.
Yeah, well, do you know what?
Well.
You're not a million miles off that one, I'm afraid. Oh, I've just spotted in the chat, Philip Roy is asking, which is the Amicus movie that Tom Baker is in? That will be Tales from the Crypt. And if you haven't seen that one, again, you will see kind of a different side to Tom Baker than you are used to seeing. Again, it's pre-Doctor Who, just pre-Doctor Who, only by matter of months. But it's a cracking movie. I think I'm right in saying Roy Castle is in that one as well. He's in Tales from the Crypt. He kept popping up in them all. I'm sure Roy Castle's in that one as well.
They're kind of like those old UC comics where those movies have kind of like a framing device, where they introduce all the characters and then they tell their own stories.
Absolutely, that's what they are, and they're cracking. They're good movies. So there we are. As I say, good old Milton Subotsky. We salute him because it's because of him that we're all sitting here still talking about Doctor Who and the Daleks all these years later. Yes, so sadly, he died in 1991. But the legacy lives on because he's still, and we're still phenomenally talking about the mythical third movie that he had the rights to do for Doctor Who. And there's been lots of chat about that in the chat this evening as well. But that again is for another time. But yeah, Milton Subotsky. So yeah, sadly, he would have been 104 this month. Sadly, we lost him back in 1991. But yeah, we salute Milton Subotsky. And yeah, finally, really in the diary this evening this is definitely a quirky one, and that's well. I'm going to read you. Just going to read you a little bit of lyric out here. Who's who? Well, Doctor Who, of course. He's quite at home in a big spaceship or sitting on top of a horse. He's been to the past and future, and whatever he may do, he'll always be a friend of mine. Who? Doctor Who. Well, the mind boggles, doesn't it? What on earth are we talking about? Of course, we are talking about Who's Who, the single that Roberta Tovey recorded as part of the promotion for Doctor Who and the Daleks, and those are indeed some of the lyrics. There are even worse lyrics than that, amazingly. Has everybody heard this particular song?
Yeah, I remember when we did the musical Who special, myself and Shah. I mean, Shah was, I think she was actually crying. She was laughing so much when I played an excerpt from this. It's a legendary single in Doctor Who circles, isn't it? But I haven't heard it for a little while. Yes, is all I'll say. Yes, they meant well. They meant
I can't imagine why you haven't heard it for a while, Dan.
Was there, Simon? Was there a cut scene from the movie where Peter Cushing was on a horse?
No, of course there wasn't. It's just that they just tried to shoehorn some lyrics in there.
Oh, okay.
It's because that's the only thing they could find to rhyme with course, I'm afraid. I'm not kidding.
You've heard this thing, Gary?
Sadly, no, but I hope to someday.
Go and track it down. I suspect, I'm almost certain it will be out on YouTube. It's on various CD releases. It's very, very easily found. What is not so easily found is the original 7-inch version, which didn't come in a picture bag, sadly, back in those days in the mid-60s. They just came in those old-fashioned circular cutout sleeves, but you don't see them very often. The originals go now for anywhere up to around about £80.
Wow.
If you can actually manage to track down an original.
Is it better? The song, is it better or worse than I Want to Spend Christmas with a Dalek?
I'm going to say it's better, only because it's got Roberta Tovey on, being adorable. That's about it. It's as irritating as I'm going to spend my Christmas with a Dalek. It's pretty horrific. It has to be
for all
said.
that we said about a performance in the film earlier on in the main discussion, they saved it up for the annoyance of this.
Yeah,
this whole enterprise, really.
Yeah, it ain't good. And unsurprisingly, sadly, Roberta Tovey did not become a pop star overnight. Sadly. Although here we are just trying to be a little bit shoehorn it into the diary. It was Roberta Tovey's birthday last month, just gone. So happy birthday to Roberta Tovey. Here we are. Fun fact of the day, if you weren't aware of this. Anybody know who Roberta Tovey's father is?
Yes, he was in Pyramids of Mars.
Well done, Dan.
He played the gamekeeper, the guy that gets crushed, the guy in the first.
No way!
Is it?
He played him, I think.
Spot on, 100%. Well done, Dan. Gold star to you. Yeah, her father is George Tovey, who played Ernie Clements, is the name you're looking for, Dan. Ernie Clements. And it is, and it's no wonder that you remember it, because of course it's one of your earliest, most horrific memories. I think I'm right in saying, aren't I? Ernie Clements.
My first Doctor Who memory, and one of my first memories of anything ever.
There you go.
1975. Shh.
There you go. So yeah, she's the daughter of George Tovey. So there we are. She was very, very much beloved by Peter Cushing. Roberta Tovey was. They really bonded well, and I think we've talked about it this evening. You can absolutely see that in the relationship on screen. And in fact, Peter Cushing said he would only do the second movie if they asked Roberta Tovey back, and if she came back to do it. He said he would not do it without. Sadly, Peter Cushing didn't really enjoy doing the Dalek movies. He didn't. He wasn't that enamored with the part or the movies himself. But what I love about Peter Cushing is you can see there the blue eyes. And Peter Cushing always insisted, in fact, on having a blue item of clothing in his costume. And there you can see the little pale blue necktie that he insisted on wearing
Oh.
because he loved anything blue in his costume because he felt it brought out the blue in his eyes.
Hang on, even his moustache is blue.
He has got lovely striking eyes.
He has, hasn't he? And I don't know whether you're aware of this, Sarah, but he also played the Doctor in a radio pilot made in the mid-60s, not long after Doctor Who and the Daleks. It's sadly lost. The pilot was made. It's lost now. It was made, as I say, just after Doctor Who and the Daleks and before the second Dalek movie was released. And he played the Doctor in it. The script is still out there. You can track that down. There was a plan for there to be 52 25-minute episodes, and they made, as I say, 21-minute pilot written by Doctor Who writer Malcolm Holt. So it's a real thing. It did happen. It's not an April Fool, but sadly, very, very sadly lost now.
Is that what they used to do, Simon? So, like, if they would do like a radio pilot and it wouldn't get picked up, they would just delete it.
Yeah. Exactly that. I mean, it's possible that it is in a vault somewhere. You never know. One of these days, it might be found that somebody might discover just a tape in a can, and it might be there somewhere. But as far as we know, gone. But definitely recorded. And as a very, very, very final little factoid for this evening's diary to send you on your way, Peter Cushing was also offered various other roles. We have mentioned this before now on the diary, but it's worth repeating since we're talking about dear old Peter Cushing, who I adore as an actor. He was also offered the role of Solon in The Brain of Morbius, Grudger in Meglos. He was also offered to be the Monitor in Logopolis.
Oh goodness, I could see that.
Can you imagine?
That would have been awesome.
Can you imagine? He was also offered Asmail in The Twin Dilemma. Lord Ravensworth.
Stayed away from that one.
Lord Ravensworth in The Mark of the Rani. Can you imagine? He would have been brilliant in that. And this one, and you'll just, as soon as I say, you'll say, yep, I can see why. Dastari in The Two Doctors. You can absolutely see him playing Dastari in The Two Doctors.
He looks more like Peter Cushing than Peter Cushing did.
Yes.
Come on.
And he turned them all down, sadly. And the final one that I would love to have seen him take on was the role of Barusa. He was offered Barusa in Arc of Infinity. Can you imagine how Arc of Infinity would have leapt up into the upper echelons if you'd had Peter Cushing in? And in fact, he was also re-offered the role of Barusa in the Paul McGann movie. This was in the original script when Barusa was going to play a role. Of course, he doesn't appear in the McGann movie, but at one point in the script, Barusa was in the movie, and Cushing was again offered the role. We don't know whether he might have taken that one. We don't know, but of course then Barusa was taken out of the script and that was the end of that. Had he done it, it would have been his very, very last role because he died, sadly, not that long afterwards. And so it would have been his very final role if he'd taken it. But he didn't. He let all of those roles go. Can you imagine if he'd just taken one of those roles in Classic Who?
Mind reels.
I think that him opposite, in particular, I'm not just saying this as a Davison guy, but him opposite Michael Gough in Arc of Infinity would have been formidable. I know
I
they
agree.
didn't have many scenes together, but because, again, not wishing to go down a rabbit hole, I've always felt that as much as I love that story, it's Leonard Sachs that's the weak link.
I would agree.
All of those prospects are tantalising. Don't get me wrong, but I can see where they were going there, and it would have been glorious. And I know that Eileen Way, the veteran British character actress who was in An Earthly Child and various Doctor Who productions, she was a close friend of Peter Cushing's, and she'd got him, I believe, to agree to go to a convention. So she was doing conventions in the 90s. He'd asked her about it because he'd heard about it, and she spent several years convincing him to attend one in a similar way that Pertwee did with Patrick Troughton. And she just convinced him that perhaps he should look at going to one when he fell ill and
Aw.
ultimately passed.
Isn't that sad?
Isn't
that
sad?
sad?
Because
Because
at
he
least,
never-
like John Hurt, got to do some conventions, got to meet some fans, got to see how grateful, how loved he was in the role, and Cushing maybe never did. I don't know. There's so little said, written, or recorded about it.
Stephen O'Neill's telling me in the chat that he was also offered the role of Professor Hater in Time Flight. Stephen, you could well be right. I can't. I bow to your better knowledge on that, if that's correct.
You know what? I'm just wondering if. Imagine if they would have offered him, because you're talking about Arc of Infinity. Imagine if they would have offered him Barusa in The Five Doctors, which would have been like a massively high-profile thing.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
might have gotten him in to do it.
I suspect, Gary, that because he turned it down in the Arc of Infinity, they probably didn't even bother asking him for the Five Doctors. But you're right. Can you imagine?
I can't imagine anybody else playing that other than Philip Latham.
No, I would agree.
He's so. I mean, I thought he was just incredible in that. But yeah, just more Peter Cushing. It's never going to be a bad thing, is it? And more from the Doctor Who diary for any occasion is always a great thing, Simon. Thank you so much, Simon.
You're very welcome. It was fun putting that one together.
Oh, what a wonderful itch to scratch in the nicest possible way. And if people enjoyed that, Simon, well, there's no if, there's no but. People will have enjoyed that. They may have enjoyed it so much they've forgotten what they should do. What would you advise they do right now before they lose the urge?
They should like and they should subscribe.
Do like the man says. Why not? And hopefully I'll be back sooner rather than later with more passages. And
Indeed.
From the glorious
Indeed.
Doctor Who diary. Thank you again, Simon.
Domgo's done it. Thank you, Domgo. Domgo says both done. Woohoo! It works.
Thank you,
What's done?
Donga.
Oh, go good stuff. Domgo's been watching for months. Wait a second. What the
And only just subscribed and like, but we don't care. Thank you, Domgo. That's what we need.
Better late than never. Bloody hellfire, mate. Anyway, so I'm going back to my comics where I belong there. Once this finished with the Eagle, I'd love a bit of that myself. Yes, that was the Doctor Who diary marking 60 years of the first ever feature-length Doctor Who movie. Brilliant job as ever, Simon. We've had more asides and memories there in the live chat, both of this much-loved movie and our connections to it, and those fabulous factoids from throughout the past there that litter the history of every corner of Doctor Who. There is a little more. Stay right where you don't go.
Welcome to Type 40. Is that good enough? I hope so. Or exterminate.
No, he's lost. We've lost him. He's gone. It's whatever it is. It's got to a good bit there for Doctor Who. Reading the Eagle there. I should have found out which copy that was and what the date is on there. I can't quite make it out, Gary. Maybe I will on the new Severin 4K release that's just come out. Available now, everybody, and not region locked. So wherever you are in the world, you can get it, slam it in your player, and enjoy. As a new life, I suppose, to a 60-year-old movie with a deep connection to the history of the show, practically back to its very beginnings. What a great show! What a fabulous conversation and celebration again. Yeah. We have indulged ourselves once more, everybody, but I think it's forgivable, Luke. I think it's forgivable. If 60 years isn't a good enough excuse, I don't know what is.
No, why not? And yeah, what a way to celebrate as well. Loads of people have connection to this film, and you get to celebrate the Daleks looking the best they've ever looked, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I agree.
They're phenomenal.
It's a
So
controversial
why not look
one.
back? And I can't wait for next year for the Daleks.
Luke, wouldn't you like to see some colour Daleks back in Doctor Who? I'd love to see that.
Well, they did try. They did try.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, they don't count for me.
Yes,
They really tried.
more in line with that. That like Gary, the red, black, and gold Dalek is my favorite design. I've got it out on my shelf out in the living room.
It's just so iconic, that one.
Yeah.
But
It's
they're all beautiful.
And the
love blue and
silver
gold.
blue ones as well. They're just they're magnificent.
I
think
don't
if anything,
the Daleks looked any better ever than in Resurrection of the Daleks, but that could be the Davison kid in me coming through again. You are probably right, and I am somewhat of a champion of colour Daleks, simply because I feel that Doctor Who can be bigger and broader, and I don't say it's necessarily primary coloured at its core, in its soul, but I do feel that sometimes we can all do this. We can all be guilty of forgetting its roots as something that a whole family, multi-generations of the same family are meant to watch and enjoy, and get sort of wrapped up in the suspense, obviously, and the adventure, but the silliness too, and that aspect of it that's somewhat larger than life. This film, it was so much fun to go back to. I'm sensing it was a lot of fun to make by all accounts. By this, is it coming up? Is it there? Yes, there they are. Look, there's Castle and Peter Cushing having far too much fun.
I could watch these two all day. I've got to admit.
That's brilliant. Where on earth is that from?
Now I remember, obviously, I saw the film initially when I was very, very young, and they were both really famous. I never saw them together again. Even though they were never off television. But in the mid 90s, they both died within a few months of one another, and I just remember feeling, an actor like Peter Cushing, we didn't own him in the Doctor Who community in the way that you could say that we own Dear Tom Baker, but I did feel Doctor Who, this character, a little bit of the light went out. And it was the same with Roy Castle as well. I'd grown up watching him in Record Breakers and various TV things that he did. And I loved that he was connected with Doctor Who as well, in the same way now that I do that, that in New Who, Luke, they brought in people like June Whitfield. And these veteran actors, sometimes they were comedic actors and actresses like Bella Emberg, people like that. I just think it's nice that they exist. They're connected to Doctor Who in the corners. And Roy Castle was a big star. Peter Cushing was a huge star. I think it's wonderful that they were there at all. And we should sort of cherish these morsels that we've got of them from such huge, broad careers.
You can't, in all honesty, you can't really imagine anybody other than Peter Cushing taking on the movie role of the Doctor somehow. He just was absolutely perfect casting.
I could
watch this on a loop forever, Sarah.
I was going to say,
I'm hypnotized watching it, Dan.
This should be like a GIF or something, or GIF, or however you pronounce it. It's just that'd be perfect.
I'm intrigued where you've even found this from, Dan. I've never seen this in my life before.
I've had it for a little while, sort of tucked away.
I don't think it's on any of the Blu-ray releases, is it? I've never seen it on any of the Blu-rays. Maybe it is.
And really quickly, because I know that people in the chat were speculating, there should have been a third movie and everything. But one of the posters that you showed before, which was the part of the mid 70s Amicus Burroughs cycle of which was at the Earth's core. The way that Peter Cushing plays in this is, to me, almost indistinguishable from the way he plays his Doctor. So if you like the way that Cushing plays it, go watch At the Earth's Core, because it's kind of like he's playing this Doctor.
Yeah, somebody said actually in the chat that At the Earth's Core, in many ways, is kind of a sequel. It is almost the third movie, and you're right. It's exactly the same part. Exactly.
Again, that's something we can come to at some point in the future. A whole other discussion, a whole other conversation. Lots of fuel for further Type 40 Live celebrations and roundtables and long form reviews, because this is what we do. I think this is what we do best. Come together celebrating the community and the legacy of 60 odd years worth now of Doctor Who. Roy Castle as Ian there. He looks like he's seen the writings on the wall. You can come and say hello. Of course you can. Use your places. Reach out to us on the social medias, Instagram and X at Type 40 Doctor Who as ever. Join us in the Type 40 Facebook group too, over there with thousands, literally thousands of other Doctor Who fans from across the generations there. They are lining the Facebook group, filling it with arguments, with fan art, with their own takes on the various topics we cover on each and every Type 40 Live. And there's lots more besides too. So go and join up, sign up, log in and geek out with everybody there in the Type 40 Facebook group. If you want to get in touch with us, leave us a message or be part of Type 40. You can drop us a question, a prediction, or a request. Any feedback at all, really, through the wonder of SpeakPipe. There's a link to that in the description and the show notes as well there. All of Doctor Who, all fair game, but any kind of interaction whatsoever. And you can get involved at any time. Right, so yes, where have we been? What have we been doing? That was our big screen Who event, the latest of many. You can catch up on some of the rest of them. Our deep dives into Blu-ray releases, for example, celebrations of key creatives or actors involved in the show. Those are there too in the playlists, as well as the standard editions of Type 40 Live. We've been marking 60 years since the release into the wilds of Doctor Who and the Daleks, the first of many on various formats that I think between us, we seem to own most of them, which is going to be a good thing. Various shapes and sizes and packages. And the beauty of it is that in having this long form conversation with my friends, hearing all your takes on this, I know that the next time I see it in 4K, I'm going to be looking for lots of the things that you guys have brought to the surface, both in its production, Luke, and the sense of wonder, and I suppose the flavour of whatever age you were when you first saw it. Any of us, I think we've all got quite different experiences, different but the same with this film, Simon, in a way that we probably don't have with the TV show, because it was such a constant. The classic series, you sort of got on it, moved in a very analog way, and then there was this. And its sequel just sat there, used as schedule fodder now and again, but the most accessible of any kind of vintage Doctor Who material. I mean, that's strange in itself, but at least we got something. At least we got this.
Yeah, we've got these two to thoroughly enjoy. And what's interesting, we haven't talked at all this evening about whether we consider it to be canon or not. We briefly mentioned the word canon.
Right, we're going to be here for another hour. So
I've never seen why that question is up for debate or even important. To me, it is what it is, and lots of different things get adapted for lots of different media and mediums. Why on earth would Doctor Who be any different than Sherlock Holmes or Tarzan or anything else? This was a massive show of strength for something that at the time was then really, really new, Luke. But it had got its place, I feel, in the cultural lexicon, almost set out for it so early on. And I wouldn't forbid anybody from having those discussions if they enjoy them, but they're just not remotely for me. It's never been something that I've even thought about.
No, I think in the Target novelization they reference the movies in this. I think it's Ian and Barbara told the stories when they come back to Earth, and the stories has been made into movies.
How indulgent, how boring, how nauseating that is. Bullshit.
When I went to see the 60 Years of Doctor Who art exhibition, and Simon will be able to back me up on this, the Cushing stuff was included.
Yes.
In the display.
Absolutely.
So to me, that tells me all I need to know. Oh, it was lovely that it was included.
It's basically, if you want it to be canon, it's canon. If you don't, it's not. It doesn't matter. It's just a cracking, nearly 90 minutes of entertainment.
That's right.
What's not to like? That's we're done here, kind of thing. It's done.
And I would say that this is. I don't want to open a can of worms. For me, this is truer to the spirit of the show than almost everything that we've been getting for.
It's very naive in a way, and I mean that in a good way. It has a naivety about it. I think this film.
Yeah.
and it's very sweet and very likable as a result of it. And so, yeah, I agree, Gary. I think it does feel very, very true to the spirit of what it feels like Doctor Who, even though it might not be canonical. It feels like Doctor Who. I'm not in any doubt. I know exactly what I'm watching.
Yeah.
For more of our blend of news, views, debates, arguments, discussion, banter, and stupid jokes, stretching across the whole of the Whoniverse and 60 plus years, 62 years nearly of Doctor Who, you know where to come for the next of our Type 40 live streams. More event shows planned, of course. Lots of itches we've been waiting to scratch for a little while. This is a reward for sitting through season 2 of Doctor Who earlier in 2025. Respite, nourishment in many respects, but in all seriousness, this is respect that is due.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Six decades to still keep being released, dusted down, Sarah, to be cherished in this way, still to have plenty of the cast and crew still with us to enjoy and to receive the love that we're prepared to sort of give it.
And you know what's really funny, Dan, is that, yeah, you're quite right. It does keep getting dusted down, but every time it gets dusted down, we don't moan and say, "Oh, they've done it again." We just leap on it to see what because we want to buy it again. It's true. We just love it coming out.
Doctor Who and the Daleks and Daleks Invasion Earth 2150 AD, both starring Peter Cushing and Roberta Tovey, out on 4K from Severin. That's the very latest edition. Lots of the other editions are still available, though. The Kino Lorber edition, the Canal edition, the Steelbook, that large one with the holograms, that cool one that Luke's got. You can get lots of these, and you can find earlier sort of physical media, archaic physical media, in a lot of charity shops and that kind of thing. So there are lots of copies of this film, however it suits you to go back to it, out there if you know where to look, depending on your sort of preferences. And you can be sure that next year we'll be back for round 2 to celebrate the 60th anniversary of that second film. Thank you to all of the panel for another roaring show. Of course, to Charlotte Shields there, who was spirited away earlier on, but to everybody else, it's great to talk about this. Sincerely, Simon, and we've been holding on to this one for a little while. It's been great to have you back. I know that your schedule is still somewhat choppy, but you're going to be back as soon as you can.
I'm back very, very soon. I am back very, very soon.
Excellent news. Luke Walters, thank you as well for making it through. Again, Chief Hooligan, him of Cinescope, and you've just dropped the opening edition of your own brand new Cinescope podcast as well, haven't you? That's going to straddle not just genres, but filmmaking as well. What's it called and where can people find it?
So it's called the Sound and Scope podcast. So it features obviously myself, the Hooligans cast, John Carley, because I get him on everything on my channel. I whore him out more than Big Finish do at this point. Bless him. We talk about everything. We've done Doctor Who this week. Is Doctor Who dead? Who knows? Next week we're talking about Marvel and DC and superhero fatigue. Then we're talking about, I can't remember what we're talking about. Streaming debates. How we made War of the Worlds, how we made Time Machine, best comedy movie of all time, and if you disagree with us, you're wrong. Best sci-fi movie of all time, you name it. As Disney killed Star Wars, you name it, we talk about it. It's available on Spotify and on YouTube. So yes, go check it out. It's a bit of fun.
As Disney killed Star Wars, Farida.
Yes.
maybe she'll let us know. She'll have some indication. Yes, thank you again, Sarah, Gary. Again, with a film like this, internationally, Gary, you do wonder how will people overseas have a different take, feel very, very differently about the film. But it actually turns out that by talking about it with you, it seems like you're pretty much on the same page and you found that movie just as charming as we did. But it's still lovely to hear your views and what you've picked up on it.
Oh, absolutely. I think anybody who's willing to embrace their inner child and sense of wonder and leave your cynicism at the door and just see this as a great creation from a specific moment in time. My love for both of these movies has only grown over the years. And I actually think after this stream, I'm going to go out. I want some soft centers now. So I actually want to go out and get some soft centers.
That's my favourite line in the movie.
It's
That's
really
it.
Mine too. Earlier, I'm amazed it's taken this long for any of us to mention it, Sarah. Have you enjoyed yourself, starry-eyed girl?
I always enjoy myself when I come on here. But yeah, it's been with you lot, my favourite people, and yeah, just talking about something as wonderful as this. Yeah, I've been very much in my happy place today. So thank you.
Pleasure. And thank you again, everybody who's been watching and commenting along there on YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and X. There's much more where that came from, but it is time to pull the lever and head off into space and time, or time and space. So that's it. Happy 60th birthday to Doctor Who and the Daleks. You know you want to go and pull the trigger on that latest release, or go and rewatch wherever it's streaming. It's everywhere, it does seem. And let us know how you get on in the comments. We always have the time if you have the space here at Type 40 Live. Have a great weekend. We'll speak to you again soon. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.